Just go ahead and let the body get comfortable now and relaxed. And when you're ready, you can close your eyes. Just again to let go of any outer distractions so that we can begin to really develop a one-pointed focus. So as we close our eyes, just bring your attention inwards and upwards to this place we call the seat of the soul. That is that place that is above the eyebrows, in the center of the head. You may even feel a slight pressure or presence around the forehead and the top of the head. So just take a few moments and just continue letting yourself relax as you gather your attention here. And just start to take notice if you feel any sensations, if you're aware of that inner peace or grace or that movement of loving. Just allowing the inner eye to open so that you begin to perceive that inner light of spirit. Most often it comes forward as a purple light. But of course, there's the blue and the pink, and ultimately the golden white. So just allow yourself to observe that inner light if it comes present, or just observe the feeling of that presence on the top of the head and forehead. And also begin to now listen within, to listen for the inner sound, that which we call the audible life stream, that sound current that is God's loving, that is the Holy Spirit, that is truly the voice of God itself. So just listen. It may first appear as like a high-pitched ringing in the ears, but if you pay attention, you'll notice it's more within your head. This is at the seat of the soul. So just keep letting go of any outer distractions and focus within to this upper room. And as you do, just be aware that that inner sound can come forward in many different ways as well, such as music or sounds of nature, or a bell, or literally is that still small voice of God. And as you're observing the inner light, the inner sound, that inner feeling, allow that knowing that encompasses it all to awaken within you. And just open and become receptive. You may even see it or feel it or hear it as a presence of loving at the top of your head or even above your head, just allowing it to pour in, to pour into the top of your head and allowing it to move through the body. You may be aware of it as it moves like a waterfall down from the head, through the neck and into the torso and through the arms and hands. Continuing down through the legs and even all the way through the bottoms of the feet, so that you find yourself in a movement like a river, that this loving just pours through your whole beingness as a river of light and sound. as this moves through you, just allow it to wash away any debris, any distractions, any disturbance, anything that would block this flow of loving. Just let it go and release it and allow the river to carry it away. As you let go and you let God. So just let God do you. Let God live in you. Let God live through you. Even let God breathe you. That your life becomes a true expression of that living, loving essence of God. For in truth, this is who we are as the soul, that divine spark of God. So let's live that truth. And let's live it by awakening and becoming aware of it in yet greater ways. By giving it the focus and the attention. So just continue letting this river of loving wash through you. Just continue to relax and to surrender into this flow, where you yourself now let go of the self, that you even surrender yourself to this river of loving, allowing the river to take you up and to carry you. And as you surrender yourself, just know you are truly in God's hands, and there is truly nothing to fear. For this action is about soul awakening and soul liberation. For you to become liberated from all that is in this physical creation, so that you, the divine, living, loving essence, may fully experience that greater reunion with God. So that you may awaken and know the divine truth of who you are and your oneness with God. And so as you continue just letting go and surrendering yourself, just begin to chant or sing the sacred name within yourself, whether it be the Hugh or Anna Hugh, or if you receive the unspoken sacred name in initiation, just begin to chant silently within yourself. For in the chanting, it builds and awakens that truth of loving of who we are. And it frees us to allow God to bring us home. So go now into the loving. Go into your liberation. And go back into God. So just continue now this interaction of loving as we move into a time of silence. So just begin now to bring yourself back in awareness and attention at the seat of the soul. Maintaining that inner focus and remembering any experiences or awarenesses as you allow yourself to come back to the physical body. Just retain those inner awarenesses, that inner knowing. And as you find yourself becoming more present and aware in the body, just allow that river of loving to continue flowing through you from head to toe, from every level, from the realms of spirit and soul, and right on down through the mind, emotions, imagination, and body. So that it's just one river of loving, one flow, one awareness, one loving. Always coming back to that loving as a point of awareness and a point of living and experiencing. No matter where we may find ourselves on any level or realm, all we ever have to do is continue looking inside to that point of loving, and the door will open where we once again step into and experience the truth of what is. If you're ready, you can open your eyes if you wish. So I'd like to share about that point of reference of loving and being in that flow, especially as it pertains not only to our physical consciousness, but as a point of awareness, no matter where we find ourselves in any realm or in any way, including the process of death and dying and this process of soul liberation that we teach here in Inner Light Ministries. That it's always important to remember the meditation practice that we do, just as we did here, is really one of reawakening into that loving. I don't use the word connection that often anymore, because how can we disconnect from that which we actually are? We are that living, loving essence of God, as we've often heard Jim share, and that is the truth. So what's there really to connect to? Because that's who we are. So really, the meditation is more about opening the doors, letting go, releasing, all that we could say has blocked our awareness, where we've lost focus, where we've been distracted from the truth of who we are. As we've heard over the years, we talked about as the soul came out of the heart of God and out of the spiritual realms, its true home, and into this physical creation, all we did as the soul was look down. So as we look down, we literally go into that which we are directing our attention. So as a soul, as we look down into this physical creation and we come into it, we come in through the unconscious and we go into the mind and then the emotions, then the imagination, and then the body, where we find ourselves here and now. That as we're in here, it's not that we're not connected, it's not that we're not the truth of who we are. It's simply a matter of where our attention is placed. Because where our attention is placed is where we're going to experience and where our awareness is going to be. And in that, all that comes with that, wherever our focus is. So of course, when we're in the body, we're focused into the physical experience, so we're going to be aware of when we open our eyes, when we listen, when we smell, when we taste, when we touch. All those senses is how we perceive and experience this physical level. But when we're not in the physical level, when we find ourselves going into other realms of experience beyond the physical, when we go into our thoughts or feelings or imagination, that we find ourselves present there, aware there. And so as we hold our awareness there, we begin to open up and experience and become more aware of what is within that experience on that realm that we're on. So it's a point of consciousness, a point of awareness. And through that is where we experience as we allow our awareness to expand. So much like we do in the physical body, when we can look and see, so our awareness is expanding. And I'm trying to simplify this so it can be practical, because it actually is practical. That is, we allow our awareness to expand through the different faculties on these other levels, that maybe we can have a greater understanding of how that works, and then maybe let it be easier in that recognition to always remind ourselves and come back to that point of focus into the loving. And that when we're not in that point of focus of loving, that we simply have looked down and out into whatever realm of creation that we may find ourselves present on, just like we do when we're in the physical body. A simple way to look at this is think about when you go into your imagination and you're fantasizing about the things you would want in life. You're fantasizing about your ideal scenes, your treasure maps, what you would really like. Or you're fantasizing about the things you don't want, or all the negative things. Maybe you're really upset and mad and sad. And so you're sitting there running through your imagination all the scenarios of what we could call negative or disturbing. Because there is the positive and the negative. So that realm of imagination, we can get caught up in that and fantasize or imagine whatever we want, good or bad, positive, negative, no matter what it is. And as that level of imagination where often our desires are most strong, and then those desires, as they gain energy, as we give them more focus, they start to accumulate, and then we physically even begin to move on those energies to try to create those experiences even physically, to whatever ability we can. Because the more we focus on it, the more energy we put into it. Energy follows thought. I should say energy follows focus, not just thought. Thoughts, feelings, fantasies, physicality. But every time we come back to this centered point, right here at the seat of the soul, there is literally a point right in the very center of the center of the center, as I have often called it, that it is that point that is a doorway by which we can now awaken or traverse through to these greater realities of that which we would call spiritual or the divine nature of that living, loving essence of the soul of who we are, and that soul's experience through all these other realms of physical, imagination, emotional, mental, unconscious, and truly back into the soul and spiritual realms. It is all done through this one point that as we go into meditation, that we are attempting to focus, and in that focus on loving, and that is what the sacred name is for. When we chant or sing the hue or Ana hue or the name of initiation, the very nature of the name, that those names are empowered and charged with the Holy Spirit, which is God's loving. So when we focus on those names, that charges or builds the loving within us. And it acts like a magnet, and it pulls us right into that point of the center, Because we've become so distracted throughout so much time and having lost our focus that we need something that assists in helping or supporting us to come back to that point. That is why the sacred name is so valuable and so important, because the name itself will bring us to that point, and not only bring us to that point, but it will actually bring us through the doorways that exist through all these different realms of consciousness. That's why the meditation is so important. There's no way to get around this. There's no way to bypass this. I know so many people try all kind of breathing techniques and yogas. People are doing all these different ayahuasca and drugs now, trying to do these quests and shamanistic things. That's great. But that's only going to get you this far. In other words, this far above the physical to the astral. There's many other doors beyond that. And those doors are only open to the souls that are truly practicing loving and devotion to that true source. It is not by any other way or means can that take place. We're going to do and be drawn towards that which is for our experience. So in what I'm sharing here, don't take it as putting down all these other modalities. That is not what I'm doing. I am trying to give a point of reference and an understanding to be aware and pay attention that as we move through these different modalities and practices, and Lord knows I've done a lot of different things myself, that each one will bring us into some point of reference, some field of awareness. But you can only get what comes with that. So if you're going on a shamanistic astral journey, you can have that, and it's amazing. That's how I started. I started having astral out-of-body experiences, and it was incredible. So do that if that's what's pulling you. Have your experience, honor that, practice it, but realize there's always another step. But with those other steps, we need to find the ways and the means by which to take those steps. And to realize that there are certain keys that will open certain doors. And you've got to have the right key to open the right door. Think about that for a moment. There's a lot of doors and there's a lot of keys out there. Which keys do you have? And which doors are you opening or wanting to open? Pay attention to these things. So many times we mislead ourselves and others mislead us because we have some experience that is beyond the physical, so we think that is everything, that is God. But yet, not understanding the fullness of the truth of what God is and all that is part of God's beingness. And that unknowing, mistakenly, and not understanding, we just have one little glimpse. We have some experience, or we go back and have many. And then we give it our all. We think that's it. And then the ego gets attached. And then the ego starts to run with it. Pay attention to what's going on inside of you. To see where you're running with things. Are you allowing yourself to get carried away and run with things? Or do you practice always bringing yourself back to that one point of focus? And then in that point, to hold to it. Peace, be still. Know that I am. Well, in that holding to that point of where that peace, be still is, we have to hold, focus, and allow it to open up and allow it to open us up. It is not done by our volition, it is not done by our will, it is not done by our ego. All those other aspects of self here are just learning to hold that point of focus. So we're bringing all those aspects, the me, myself, and I, the personality, the ego, the animal nature, all of it, whatever you want to call it. We're utilizing those to come into alignment and support the process of holding the focus, rather than allowing them to run rampant and that we just go with wherever they run. We're now bringing them together in unison, embracing, creating a space of oneness, that in that we now gather all these aspects of self in a one-pointed focus and loving devotion towards that which we call God. And that which is within us inherently knows. We know what God is. We know what loving is. It is inherent within life itself everywhere, in every expression. But we have that freedom of choice or freedom of will of how we choose to focus it. When we are ready, we will begin to focus more to that point and always reach for the higher and not get caught up and run with the stopping points, such as I was just mentioning in the astral realm, the shamanistic vision journeys, the questing. It's all amazing. I've done some of that. It's incredible. And when I was doing it, I thought that was everything. But I kept doing the meditation, coming back to that point, thinking, wow, okay, this is the doorway. I found it. I know what to do. I'm practicing. And I keep having the experiences. But then as I kept doing that, I kept being lifted higher and higher, because I found the more I did the meditation and focused, I began to become aware of a presence or a force. May the force be with you. May that divine, loving presence be with you. Because it is not forceful, but it is a force. That as we become more aware and attuned to it, and we surrender to it, it will begin to now carry us. It will begin to open us. And when I say open us, I'm talking about all those other levels of self I just mentioned. Because if we learn to come into alignment and focus and attune right to that point, and surrender to the loving now will begin to free us from all those distractions, to free us from all those things that we've gotten caught up in. Believing this, believing that, thinking we know it all, thinking we know nothing. What is right, what is wrong? Any of it. That we need to be willing to lay down our right and wrong. We need to be willing to lay down our beliefs. Even something we may have been doing our whole lives, that if we think we're right, we need to lay down the righteousness. We need to let go if we are truly going to now allow God to wake us up. And that is the hardest part for the ego. Because when the ego has a taste of all these other wonderful metaphysical, magical experiences, it will run with it, it'll take hold of it. And that is one of the biggest challenges for the ego, is to let go, even for a moment. 2.5 hours of meditation. 2.5 hours, 10% of the day. How many of us really do that? How many of us can even sit down or lay down for even half an hour and focus, like we just did? We just did about a half an hour meditation, or a little longer. We just did a half an hour. Kelsey just this morning did a 2.5 hour meditation. I hope everybody attended that. That's why we do that. We need to give ourselves the opportunity by doing this. And I know many people, they can't even get beyond half an hour. That's okay. But are you giving yourself the chance to get beyond half an hour? Are you devoting 2.5 hours in your day where you carve that out and you schedule it in? You say, during this 2.5 hours, and I schedule 3 to 4 hours, just so most of you know, Because I know if I schedule a block of 3 to 4 hours of time, I will get 2.5 hours in. In the other hour and a half, I'll either fall asleep, or I'll be fantasizing or thinking about stuff. So in that 3.5, 4 hour time period, I'm lucky if I get a full 2.5 hours of actual meditation. I'm lucky if I get an hour and a half of actual meditation. That's why I listen to the talks a lot. If I listen to a talk in a guided meditation, that can use up an hour, hour and a half. And that always helps me to hold my focus at this one point. I use those as tools as well as the sacred name itself, because those talks and meditations we do come out of that sacred name that we share. So there is that essence of loving imbued into these talks, into the meditations we do. So when we listen to them, just like you're listening now, most of you are aware, and if you're not, I'd say pay attention, that when we do these classes, when we do these talks, when we do these meditations, because we have such a one-pointed focus that is always about God, loving, spirit, our soul, that focus we create right here and now literally pulls us to the point, and it will literally begin to stir us awake. Even as I'm sharing now, if you're paying attention, you may be aware of this divine presence right now. You may literally feel it. You may be getting chicken skin and feel yourself tingling. You may be seeing that inner light, or you look and you're watching the screen right now, and you may even see like a whiteout or purple, a movement of light that you know is not physical, but yet you're seeing something. This is very common when we are holding the focus like we do in meditation, even with our eyes open, that we begin to perceive, that we feel, that we know, that we hear and see things that are not physical, that are spiritual. But be aware that even a lot of that, we, depending on the level of consciousness that we are awake to, is maybe all the higher our awareness. So if we're just been doing those astral journeys like I was talking about, we may be only aware of that spirit, the true divine living loving essence, because it exists on every realm. You could see that essence in the air itself. Air is clear, right? We can see through it. But if you tune in to your spiritual eye, the soul of who you are, you allow your physical awareness to shift to the spiritual, you may even begin to see in the air, become aware of that divine presence, because it exists in everything. But we just have to attune ourselves to it. The soul lives on that divine presence. Just as the body lives on air, and with the body needs air, well, the same thing for the soul with the Holy Spirit. That Holy Spirit exists in the air itself, and everything, from the physical level to the heart of God. And all we need to do is attune ourselves to it, to open to it. And that is why we give the sacred name in this meditation practice, and we need to practice it. That's the main point I'm getting to. So many people try to find easy ways. Just take this pill, just smoke this, just do this, you'll go on a trip. Well, I just talked about that. Or do this little 20, 30-minute meditation of how to astral project. There's a lot of that out there, and I've done several of them. I haven't done all the drugs, I'll have to admit, but I've done all the other meditation and metaphysical things that are quite fantastic and amazing and magical. But even as I did those, I was always aware of this divine presence. I didn't fully understand what it was in my beginning years, but I was always aware of it. So that was always that which was guiding me. And it would always inspire me to keep coming back to that one-pointed focus, regardless of all the other techniques and meditations and whatever things I was doing. It always inspired me and drew me back to here. Even when I would read other things, holistic health things, metaphysical things, I would always feel that energy draw me back, and I'd lay that stuff down, and I'd just lay back and go within. And boy, I'd feel that peace of spirit just draw me right up into here, and then just lift me out into other realms. Not just the astral, but continuing. So over the years, as I kept doing that, I found myself now progressing, and as I moved through the different realms and levels, I found those ways and means or those techniques I'd used in the past just drop away. They had served me at one point, but then they no longer served me. But that action of meditation on the sacred name and this point, the seat of the soul, was there all along. And it has served me all along to this day, which is why I'm doing what I'm doing with Jim, which is why I share about this, because I have found that no matter what else we do, eventually we will realize there's always only one point, one seat of the soul, one spark, one loving, one God. And that is something we will all wake up to at some point in time. Even though it doesn't exist in time, we experience in time. I really don't need to go on any more than right there. But of course I will, as we always do, continue on to more and more. Because one of the things I wanted to reference today, but I wanted to share this first because this is always the most important part. As many of you know, we've sent out a few notices over the last few months, and I'll dare say even over the last year, or less even, that there's been many people who have left this physical plane of existence, that we've had several initiates pass away. Many of you have gotten the emails or different communities as well as many other people. I know many people not in ILM. I'm just talking about some of our initiates and disciples in ILM right now. That these people that have been practicing this pathway, that know and understand what I'm speaking of now, that you've heard us share about several of them or reference them. My own father, last November when he passed away, we shared about that. Jim shared about his experience with my dad. I've shared my experiences over the years. For many of you, if you know or don't know, I initiated my dad years ago. He had that sacred name. And regardless of how much he utilized it or not, that grace of the Holy Spirit was with him. So that as he left the body and went in to the other realms, that action of the Holy Spirit that is with him, that even myself or Jim or another spiritual teacher will even assist on those other levels. Not only physically like we gather and we share here, but literally, spiritually. Does God, through the Holy Spirit, bring us to those souls that we are teaching and sharing and supporting and serving through this action of the sacred name and the meditation we teach here, that we truly work with you. It's truly God, but we as working with God will truly work with you and serve and support you from the physical level, through the astral, through the causal, through the mental, the etheric, the soul, the realm of the spirit, and to the heart of God itself. And I really mean that. I know that. I've experienced it all, and I continue to. I know the way. That's why we're here in our service. But it's up to each of us to heed those words. We don't want you to just trust or believe us. We want you to take what we share and to practice it, to awaken, to discover and know for yourself. And then you will find what we share is true. Not based on you think it's true or you feel like it's true, but based upon you know it's true. That's why we ask people to take a good year or so before they even receive the sacred name and initiation. To take time to not only listen to what we share and read and learn about the teachings, but to practice the meditation, to practice the LAF, to have your own personal experience so you know the reality of what we share here. because I can only share from my own experience, and that's what we do here. But I want those of you to know, just as we've shared over the last several months, and actually years, we've always shared about it, it's just kind of here and there as it comes up, about the soul's journey even through the death and dying process here physically. And again, I'm sharing this because we've just had somebody recently pass the other week, and many people have asked about it, and so we always share. Just like we always do about any soul that has been initiated, that is walking this path of sound and light, that journey home to God. That the important thing to be aware of, as I was just describing this point, this action and meditation, that divine essence, when you practice this meditation and you know this while you're here in the body, you will never forget it. So even when you take that last breath and you leave this body, that point of reference is always the same and true, because it is in you the soul of who you are. It is not a point in the body. We call this here the seat of the soul. So many people get confused. When we say the seat of the soul, the seat of the soul, that's a physical reference point. We say the seat of the soul. Why do we point here? Because it's the seat of the soul. Because we, the soul, are seated there in the body. We're not focused on the seat of the soul. We are focused on and in the soul, where we sit within this physical consciousness. So you, that soul, when we talk about that, we are literally assisting you to direct your attention back into the truth of who you are. And as you do that, you will become aware and awake to that living reality. And in that, as you and God work together, and again, we're just here to support all of that. We're here as ministers to serve, to minister to this action. That you, as you awaken to your divinity, the soul of who you are, then, you will begin to look up. You will be drawn upwards. That sacred name that is the Holy Spirit will literally begin to pull you upwards. And all you got to do is be willing to let go and let it lift you. So even when you leave the body, just like in meditation, or when you go to sleep at night, when you go to sleep every single night, you're letting go of the body. You are literally letting go of the body and allowing your soul now to just freely now move to other levels of experience. Every single night. It's interesting because years ago, I don't remember last time I shared this, I know I did a while back, I was actually taken through the dying process. The literally Spirit brought me into and through the process of what it is to actually die. I actually have experienced dying. And literally the words that Spirit shared with me were, dying is easier than breathing. Dying is easier than breathing. And then literally I had the experience where my soul just slipped out of the body. Literally there was even when I wave my hand through the air, I can feel the wind resistance. There's a wind drag, right? You can feel it. You move your hand, you feel the wind. Well, when I had this experience, there was absolutely no resistance, no wind drag, nothing. That's why dying was easier than breathing. Even breathing, the movement of air physically, there's a resistance. But the movement of spirit has absolutely no resistance. It is clearer than air itself. It is easier than air. It is easier than breathing. So dying, what is dying? Dying is simply the soul letting go of the body for the last time of living in it. That's why on the exhale, that last breath, it's so funny. When we're born, we breathe in. When we die, we breathe out. So I guess no matter how many years we're alive, it's one big long breath, really. One breath in, one breath out. Because it is that breath in, the soul comes into the physical consciousness, and on the breath out, the soul leaves the physical consciousness. But that breath out is what I'm talking about right now. Because those of us walking this journey, we're not little kids anymore. And a lot of you in the group are getting up there in age. I am too now, you know. Dying is easier than breathing. That's why you don't hear us talk about breathing techniques and yoga techniques, because it's all dealing with the body. Now, those techniques are all healthy and good for the body, the mind, and the emotions. They're good healing modalities, good for taking care of the body holistically here. But when it comes to a true spiritual action like what we share here, it has nothing to do with it. Absolutely nothing. Because what does any of the health of the body matter? What does the body breathing? What does the body taking in? What does anything matter with the body when the soul leaves it? No matter how good a life we've lived, no matter how bad a life, no matter how well we've taken care of ourselves, no how terribly we've taken care of ourselves, when we take that last breath and the soul leaves, it's done. The body's done. It's over. That's the end of the physical part of the soul's experience. For this life. For that life, I guess I should say. If you hear what I'm saying right there, just that statement alone, wouldn't you wonder, why do you make so many things so important in the physical world? Why do you focus so much on one little detail of something you eat, or something you said, or something you thought, or some emotion that went through? Whether you're a big drama queen or just a little drama princess. Why is all that so important? When you get down to the reality of what I'm talking about here, the reality of life itself in this physical, we're born and we die. That's the body. So everything that comes with the body drops with the body. But the soul of who we are goes on. So why not concern ourselves more with that? That is the reality, that which is true, and that is eternal, that continues, regardless of the physical body, regardless of our thoughts and our feelings, regardless of what we think is important or not important, regardless of what's right or wrong, regardless of what's good or bad. We, the soul, keep going on. So why not give attention and focus on that, the truth of who we are? And that's what the meditation is doing, or maybe attempting to do, but does do, is awaken us to the truth of who we are. Because as those doors are open, when you have the right keys, well, right, Jesus called this sacred name the keys to the kingdom. Remember I said a little while ago about what keys do you have and what doors are you opening? Well, the keys to the kingdom are these sacred names of God that have always been shared on this path of sound and light. And that is what we're doing here. These keys open the doors, first with the hue to the soul of the physical consciousness. It opens the door to the spirit of who we are. In the other 5 keys we give you an initiation. Each key opens the door on each of the realms. So you use that sacred name of the astral level. It is a key that opens that door for the soul to now move beyond the astral and into the causal. And there's the trick. All these other things that people do that get to the astral realm can't often go beyond because they don't have the keys to go beyond and open the other doors. But those other keys can often be found around the world, other techniques. There's keys that can open the doors to the astral, open the doors to the mental. But then going beyond that is where it is the greatest secret or the greatest treasure hunt, is the actual 4th and 5th key that the soul needs to truly go beyond the physical creation. And that's what most have lost, that wonder about, that don't really know. So when we talk about the 5 sacred names, we're talking about the 5 keys that open the doors beyond the astral, the causal, the mental, the etheric, and then into the soul realm itself. That fifth key especially that gets us beyond the great void or that which is unconscious. Most of us, just think of it like when we go to sleep at night and we go unconscious. If we don't remember our dreams, we're unconscious. Or we close our eyes and it's just dark and void. Well, that's what we call the etheric realm or the unconscious. Getting through that realm, it's an actual realm spiritually, getting through that great barrier reef that is void is the biggest trick of all. Because most souls, they don't know what's on the other side. They have no idea. They don't have the keys to open the doors, the ways or the means, or somebody to show them through that and into the soul and the spiritual. And part of the mistake is most people don't even know that exists, so they think, oh, I just saw the light of spirit, and it just woke me up into this paradise. This must be the Garden of Eden. It's the happy hunting grounds, the summer land, it's the paradise where you can have everything you want, the pearly gates, the golden streets, the white billowy clouds, the angels singing. Not realizing this has all just been created in our imagination. So when we move in consciousness to that level, we think we made it to heaven. We don't even know there's something more. Until we've experienced it long enough. Once we've experienced it long enough, we begin to wonder, because some part of us called the soul knows when it is not living the truth in the fullest sense. When we are only living a partial truth, because when we are living that light of spirit on any level of creation, we are living the truth of who we are. But if we don't know that truth through every realm and every existence and creation, right in the heart of God, that's where we are limiting ourselves. Just because we see that light, well, that is the light of truth. That is the light of spirit and loving. But have we followed it all the way to the source is what I'm saying. Or are we just seeing it in the level of consciousness we're in, but not allowing ourselves to go beyond that level, not allowing that light to now continue carrying us higher and higher? That's where we need to keep paying attention. Don't ever stop is what I'm saying. Persevere. Keep letting go, keep surrendering, keep coming back to that point. Because every time you do, you allow God to come in and lift you into another experience, into another realm. You give God the opportunity to work with you, to release the attachments, to release your distraction of down and out, to give up all those things, those karmas, those attachments, whatever it may be that you're holding on to that is keeping you held down. And ultimately, you're going to realize this takes great humility, because at some point, you're going to realize you can't do this yourself. You can't do this out of your own volition or your own willpower. So at some point, we've got to give up our own willfulness. We've got to give up of trying to do it all ourselves. We've got to be willing to surrender and let God and God's helpers come and assist us. That's the real sacrifice. That's the real surrender. That's the real letting go. Not just letting go of stuff like relationships and money and this and that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about letting go of ourselves and who we think we are, so that we can really wake up to discover who we really are. So we just have to continue to allow ourselves to keep waking up more and more. And you will know when you've arrived to the truth of who you are. And you will know when you've arrived to the greater, higher spiritual realms. And you will know when you've arrived, because it is more real than what you experience physically. And believe me, when you take that last breath here and you leave the body behind, You're going to know something beyond the physical. He's laughing. Regardless of which realm you end up ascending to, or descending, I guess, but we just watched a funny movie last night. It's like, am I going to heaven or hell? Well, I've been to hell as well as heaven, so I've covered all the bases. I've ridden that elevator up and down and down and up. How else do you get to know and understand all this stuff other than to go have experience in it all? So going back to this point, so just as we encourage everybody to practice meditation whenever you start, I don't care how old you are, how young you are, whenever you start, just keep doing it no matter how long the rest of your life is. Because the more you can do this now, the more you awaken and know. And even if you die, or shall I say leave the body before you are fully awake, you will have anchored yourself enough in that even when you leave the body, that action that we often call God's grace will always be with you and is always going to support and guide you and take you as high as you can go, regardless of how high you've gotten while you were in the body meditating. Regardless. You don't worry about that. Because many of you go, what realm am I in? Where level have I woken up to? Doesn't matter. You just need to keep doing the meditation, keep doing this. And at some point you're going to understand and know. Whether you're in the body or whether it's after you leave the body. Again, it doesn't matter. But even when you leave the body, so getting back to that last breath of when I said dying is easier than breathing, well, I should say what Spirit said, I'm just repeating it. What do you do then? When you find yourself, whether it's that last breath and you leave the body, or whether it's in meditation and you leave the body, or whether you go to sleep at night and you leave the body, what do you do? Well, just as you practice meditating here while you were in the body, you do the same thing when you're out of body. Because you, that is the living reality, will be conscious and aware, and in that conscious awareness, you do the same thing you learned to do while you were in the body. Bring your point of attention, well, where's the seat of the soul when I'm out of the body? There's always the seat, or I should say, that's why I keep calling it a point rather than a seat. A point. That point is within you, the soul itself, that when you focus into that, no matter what realm you're on, no matter where you find yourself, especially when you leave the body in that last breath, you do the same thing. You focus at that point. You look, you watch, you listen for the movement of that river of loving, for the sound and the light, for the spiritual teacher. You look for Gemini, you look for Jesus, you look for God, you look for that movement of light and sound, and you surrender to it. You take the hand of it, you let it lift you. You say, God, I don't know what's best for me. It doesn't matter. But I just look to you and I love you. That's all we have to do, is look and love God. And then God will take care of the rest. We just truly have to be willing to do it. That's all that's required, is the willingness to do it. Literally, that is all that's required. There's no test to pass. There's no right or wrong answers. There's no anything. All we have to do is be willing to look to God, to love God, to allow God to do us. That's literally all that's required. So whether you're going to live a lot more years or whether you're getting close to it this life, doesn't matter. Hopefully you're hearing that in what I'm sharing right now. Same thing, not only in the death process, but in the dying process. It's the same thing. Allow the body to just move through whatever it does, just like we do now, regardless of the state or the condition, regardless of the health or disease, regardless. A lot of us, when we get older, start having challenges with body. We just can't do what we used to. Well, are we going to sit there and judge it and try to make it do what it used to do? Or can we begin to move into acceptance and then keep coming back to this point of just loving and just accepting everything the way it is, realizing that really the only thing ultimately that's important, I don't want to say ultimately, always the only thing really, is just the loving of who we are. Because that always is. Everything else, these bodies, every experience is transitory, temporary. But we are permanent. So why not focus on the truth of who we are, on that permanence, that which is eternal? And just experience the rest. Let it pass. Let God now bring you through whatever you need to experience to fulfill it. That's also why we call this pathway a path of liberation. This meditation that we do is the very thing that literally assists the soul in letting go of all the distractions, the attachments, the karmas, the thoughts, the feelings, the bodies, imaginations, everything that would hold the soul back from that true realization of soul self and God self. Because that sacred name, the meditation we do, is upon the Holy Spirit itself. It is that Holy Spirit that is the expression of God that works with us, in us, and through us. And we just have to allow it to do that. But we've got to understand what we need to do to allow that, to surrender to it, to make ourselves available. So practice now, do it now before that last breath, so that when the last breath comes, it's going to be easier than breathing, because it truly is. So that way, when that last breath does come, you know you're going to be liberated. You know your soul is going to go all the way home to the soul realm and the realms of spirit and to the heart of God. That's liberation. That's what we're doing here. We're not just trying to meditate to heal our bodies. We're not just trying to meditate to see our future. We're not just trying to meditate to see past lives. We're not just trying to meditate to see other realms. We're not just trying to meditate to have some kind of experience. All of that's going to happen along the way to where we're really going. Any past life, future life, health for the body, mentally, emotionally, whatever we need is going to happen, is going to be part of the process. We will experience what we need to experience. In other words, what God wants us to experience to fulfill who we are as the soul in this journey through the beingness of God. We just have to be willing to surrender to that and let God bring us through it, rather than trying to control it, rather than resisting it, rather than judging it. We need to just surrender. Keep our focus on God. That's why you always hear God first and God only. God first and God only. We do that by bringing our attention inwards and upwards and focus where God is, who we are. And as we keep doing that, that then becomes our reality more and more and more. And then we truly are living the soul, who we really are, and we then realize and are aware, wow, we the soul is just using this body as a vehicle for a temporary time. We're just using the mind, the emotions, and imagination temporarily as vehicles to experience those other levels. Because that's what they are. So ultimately, what do you really want? Do you want each of those other vehicles and what comes with them? Or do you really want your soul and God and what comes with that? So if you're going to have a desire or addiction, let it be God. And then let God handle all the rest. And truly allow yourself to just go along for the ride, Just experience it. Don't think you don't have to do anything and you can just sit around all day. No, because while you're here in the body's meant to move. But while you're moving in this body, even if your body's not moving, well then maybe you're supposed to spend more time in the mind, imagination, whatever. While you're here, there's always something to experience. But it's not for us to focus on the experience. We want to focus on that light of soul, who we are, that is having the experience, and allow ourselves to awaken to who we are beyond the experience. And then we'll really begin to understand the greater purpose and truth in it all. But it is that freedom by doing this by which we become liberated. And that action of liberation is the ultimate that we're here to do while we're in the physical creation. So love God, let God love you, and the liberation will take place. God bless you all.
Well, it's interesting. With Brian's talk, I brought up all these different experiences I've had in this lifetime having to do with the inner realms. And it'd be great to just sit and tell story for 2 hours, 3 hours, because I could do it. I could fill the time. But I'm really here to share something more than just story. Yet though what I'm going to share is a story in itself. This pathway is really a pathway that is a lifelong journey. It doesn't begin and end with your decision to get initiated and then now I've made it to this point, I'm done. It's a lifelong journey from your birth, from the moment you took that first breath, to the moment you take the last. And at the first moment of your breath, as you took charge of this body, that at that time you were focused, you were destined to be initiated in this lifetime. Now, whether you chose to get initiated was another story, but you were destined to get initiated in this lifetime because this lifetime was meant for you to liberate and go home to God. But it is a choice. It is a choice whether or not you chose or you choose into initiation. No one's forced you. No one's made you do what you've done by getting initiated. And no one is trying to force you or make you sit down and meditate. That is all done through your choice, your will, your decisions. And just like I said, it's a lifelong journey from the first breath to the last. We really are, once we're initiated, meant to meditate as much as we can every day so that we truly do liberate the soul and maintain that focus to hold that liberation until the last breath. And I've seen initiates both on this pathway and on other sound and light pathways that have been initiated, who have done the meditation, who have done the inner work, who have woke up all the way into their soul and in the soul realm. And then they think, okay, I've done it. I've got that. And they stop the meditation to go out and have more experiences in the world, to do something different, to do something more, to achieve something. The key in that is that when you stop the meditation, it's easy to get caught up once again in the outer, to have the world pull upon you and bring you back down into the lower realms. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just part of a journey. But this pathway really is about liberating the soul and not continuing our connection, or our experiences in the lower realms. And so it's really meant to be a lifelong journey in the sense that we meditate once we're initiated for the remainder of this lifetime, keeping our eye on God, keeping our focus on the soul in the spiritual realms, and liberating the soul from the lower. So be aware of that, and don't get complacent and start thinking, gosh, I've had soul experience. I know myself in the soul. And kind of set it aside thinking, okay, I achieved that goal. Good boy. That was great. Now I can go out and do more things. No. Because waking up and knowing who you are in the soul realm is just another step upon this journey. From there, you enter into the realms of spirit, and you begin that process of merging back into the oneness, merging back into God itself eventually. And that takes time as well. And even when we merge back into the oneness in the spiritual realm, if we choose not to meditate and hold that focus and keep that alive within us, we still can go down and get caught back up in the world. And I say that because I know that. I've seen that many times. And it's quite amazing. I'm not going to say it's sad, but it is quite amazing to see people walk away from the pathway once they've achieved the goals and get caught back up in the world again. And I've had a few come to me and say, what happened? What happened? My life was so wonderful. I lived such a beautiful inner life, and now where did it go? Well, the question is, where did they go? That they are not living that inner lifetime anymore. They went back down into the world. They let go of that which they have come awake to, and they have started going back to sleep. Ruby said so clearly, wake up, and don't go back to sleep. And it's easy to do. It's easy to go back to sleep. It's just get lazy. It's not do the work. It's not continue the journey. This journey has no ending. This journey continues on and on. Just as all these different lifetimes you've had, the soul has continued on and on through all these experiences. So the journey of the soul continues even when we liberate from this physical realm and this lower creation. Even then, the soul's journey continues on because there's more to be experienced, more to come into the knowing of, more to be at one with. And we're to continue that journey. So just be aware of how wonderful your path has been, how much you have come awake to yourself, to the Spirit, to the grace that is there for you as an initiate. And if you're not an initiate yet, that's just fine. Do the work. Do the meditation. Chant the hue and the anti-hue. The hue and the anti-hue will bring you right up here to the seat of the soul. And it will wake you up into the greater truth of who you are as a soul seated in this body. And that's the real beginning of the journey. The story of Moses going up Mount Sinai, there's an outer story and there's also an inner. The outer story is that he did walk up to the top of a mountain. And he did have his experience of receiving certain things from God to direct his disciples and his people that were following him in how to live their life. But it's also about the inner journey. This body consciousness, this physical consciousness, is our Mount Sinai. And it's for us to begin to focus inward and upward and walk this inner pathway that lies within ourselves, from the lowest to the highest, and get to the top of the mountain. And as we do that, we begin to take charge over certain things within our lives that have maybe controlled us, maybe distracted us, maybe stopped us from making that inner journey. Our fears, our anxieties, or whatever it might be. But by chanting the Hu and the Anti-Hu, which are a spoken name of God, you begin that process of walking that trail up, up, up to the seat of the soul, and to wake up to that seat of the soul and know the soul that resides there, that divine spark. That's the burning bush. That's the fire that Moses saw at the top of the mountain. The flame that burns not, but enlightens all. So take that journey and begin the journey inward and upward to wake up to the truth of who you are as soul. The soul that you're first going to meet as you're on this journey is right here at the seat of the soul. That's where the soul resides in us. And then once we have achieved that and we get initiated and have the sacred name, we can then begin to walk the greater inner journey upward to get to the seat of the soul at the top of the soul realm. And there you will also know the truth of who you really are as a divine spark of God, as a soul. And that journey that you will take will be that spark of God here, now walking its pathway to unite itself with the soul itself in the soul realm. And that's a greater union than you might ever imagine. And it's powerful in many ways, it's meaningful in so many ways, and it's fulfilling in so many ways. And the love that is there, waiting for you to awaken to, is beyond words, beyond belief, beyond anything that the mind can comprehend or imagine. But that's not even the end of the journey. The journey then begins as the soul begins to move forward on this pathway into the realms of spirit. And there we begin to awaken to God itself. We begin to know the God within our soul, the God that is our soul. And the soul begins to awaken into the God itself, the creator of itself. And you begin to merge into the greater oneness. And the journey carries you higher and higher through those realms of oneness and back into the very heart of God itself. And Brian and I are here to assist you on the whole journey, not just a part of it. We've walked that journey, we live that pathway, and we're here to help you to do the same. It's not something that you have to do on your own. It's God's grace doing it in you, for you, through you, with you. And it's just up to you to do what it takes, which is the meditation, to fully come awake and knowing who you are on all these different levels of consciousness. And it's quite amazing when you begin to realize, well, here I am here, and here's who I am here, and this is what it's like here. And you can look inside and just look straight up into the very heart of God and know that you've taken every step, every action to get into that place where you reside in the fullness. And even then, God has a greater journey for you once you merge back into the heart of God. So be aware, this journey is continuous. It's not a short time. It's not done in a year. It's not done in 10 years, unless you take your last breath at that time. But it just goes on until you do finally take the last breath. And at that last breath, Brian and myself, the Holy Spirit, the grace of God will be right there waiting for you. And it will take you up, 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 up to the greatest fulfillment, to that place where oneness truly exists. And there's no words for any of that. There's no descriptions. There's no way to give you a picture, an image, an understanding, a mental concept of what that is. It's all way beyond words, way beyond meaning to the mind or to this consciousness of the body. It's for us to have our own personal experience and to know it through our own journey. So don't feel like there's going to be a finale on this journey, the last chapter, because there is none. Do the meditation every day with loving, with devotion, with focus, as best you can. And do it till the last breath. And I'll tell you, when you take your last breath with the sacred name of God being spoken inside of you, you will have won the great battle. You will have won a great victory. You will have liberated your soul. And what more is there to do? No matter what successes you have in this world, no matter who you become in the outer, will matter not. But who you are and who you wake up to inside is everything. Wake up, and don't go back to sleep. We can go to sleep very easily just by looking down and getting caught back up in the world. And the world is ever right at our feet, waiting for us to do that if we will. It actually is calling on us. Come back. Where did you go? Why did you abandon us? Come back. We don't want you gone. And it's just up to you to keep looking towards God and not giving attention to the lower creations that are trying to get you to come back. And the way you do that is just simply by meditating every day and waking up more and more inside. And if you're one who meditates and doesn't have a lot of inner experience, or even any inner experience, do the meditation anyway. Because believe me, at the end of the journey, on that last breath, you're going to wake up and have a tremendous experience. And I know what that is. I have walked people through the etheric realms. I shouldn't say people, souls, through the etheric realm, into the soul realm, and brought them into their awakeful state in the soul themselves. And the beauty and the grace and the gratitude and the joy and the loving that all is really beyond words and belief. So even if you're not having experience right now, do the work anyway. Make the effort anyway. Take the time anyway. And just give yourself that time every day, knowing that the ultimate goal is to awaken to you, the divine. To awaken the divine in you. Because I know I have taken people all the way into the soul realm and into their soul itself that had no experience in the world through the meditation or any other means that they could see that would tell them, oh gosh, you've got to keep meditating. But they did it anyway because something inside of them drove them to do it. They knew it was important, but they couldn't figure out what or why. But they did the work and they reaped the reward. So know that Brian and I are here for you on this journey, and we will do what we can to assist you in this journey, both outwardly and inwardly. And most of our work is on the inner. Most of the time we spend in our meditations is helping souls to go higher. That's our part of the journey. I don't want to say that's our job because we don't have a job. We just have a purpose, a meaning, an action that has been given to us to fulfill. And that was given to us by God Himself, not by anyone in this world. No one in this world has the authority to give that kind of power of loving. Only God can do that. So do what you can to wake up inwardly as well as outwardly, because in an outer awakening, you begin to take responsibility for your thoughts and your feelings, your actions and your reactions. And that's also a part of this journey. That solidifies the path of this journey. Because you're building inwardly, but you're also building a strong foundation outwardly by taking responsibility for your thoughts and your feelings, being aware of your actions and your reactions with those thoughts and feelings. And you build a strong foundation for you, the soul, to stand in this body and in this world and fulfill itself, and to live in this world in a responsible, spiritual way, so that you fulfill this journey completely. And there is nothing that could ever draw you back down here, no purpose, no anything. And at the last breath, you will know. You will know freedom like you've never, ever imagined it to be. You will know a joy that is greater than any joy this world could bring you. And you will know love as you've longed for it for so long, and greater than that by so much, it's hard to even put into words. So yes, you're sacrificing a lot to walk this pathway. But if you've walked it for a while, those sacrifices are well worth giving up to live the life of the inner. And those things that you sacrificed really were not that important after you saw just what they really were and how they really reacted and acted in the world. Your life gets simpler. I don't know if I'm going to say it gets easier. It feels like it gets easier for me, but that's my journey. But I think you'll find that it gets easier for you as well. But it definitely gets more and more fulfilling as things get quieter inside. We find greater peace inside. We begin to feel the movement of loving inside in a greater way than anything the world had to offer us. And we just really, truly wake up into the divine that we are. But that's who you really are. You are the living, loving essence of God. That divine spark that resides at the seat of the soul is the loving essence of God. And that loving essence of God is longing now to go back to God from which it came and to merge into it and know itself to be truly one in God for eternity. There never has been separation. You have never been separated from God. Never. But you looked away. You looked away and down and out and got caught up in something that is separate from God. And now you believe in separation here. But in truth, the divinity that you are, that living, loving essence, has always been right inside God itself, in oneness. It's just that you have forgotten. The meditation is a way of remembering yourself back into who you really are. And that's what meditation is, remembering the truth, waking up into the knowing, into the experiencing, into the beingness of it all. And I'll say one more thing that Spirit said to me quite a while ago about the sacred name, about these keys to the kingdom that Jesus talked about. The keys to the kingdom are the 5 names of God. And each of the names opens the door into another realm above that you can walk through and go higher. And those keys are used every day that you chant the name of God. Those are the keys, and those names open the door. And there's 5 realms, and there's 5 doors that must be opened for you to walk free from this prison. The one thing that Spirit told me years ago was a key not used opens nothing. A key not used opens nothing. It's important for you to really hear those words and be aware of what the meaning is. If you use the sacred name and chant it daily, you're opening the doors, and those doors will remain open. once you've opened them and walked through them, you have fulfilled a big part of the journey. But it's using those keys to open those doors. And the way you do that is just by chanting them, saying them over and over inside of yourself. And in doing that, you are using the keys to open the doors to get back to the heart of God that you're longing to get back to. And that's a very strange statement when I just said a minute ago that you never left the heart of God. So how is it you're getting back to the heart of God when you never left? It's because you believe you're on a journey. You believe you're in separation. You believe the truth that the world is trying to tell you, that you are separate from God, that you're not in God, and you've got to make your way back to God. And to fulfill yourself and wake up into the knowing that you never left the heart of God, this journey is here for you. And it's a simple journey of just chanting these sacred names all the time, as much as you can inside yourself. In meditation for sure, and in your daily life, just let it run inside of you. And believe me, it will. Your soul, once these names are given to it in this lifetime and you are consciously aware of it, the soul will then begin to chant them over and over all the time, because it's the soul that is longing to go home, not the mind. The mind is home. This is home. Where am I going to go? The emotions, this is home. The imagination, well, this is home. The body, this is home. I don't have to chant anything. I'm home. But the soul chants to get free of this trap, the trap of the mind, the trap of the world, to get out of the prison that we have been caught up in. Just as Moses went to the Pharaoh and said, "Let my people go." Brian and I have gone to the Lord of this creation, called Aranjan, Lucifer, whatever you want to call him. And we have said, "Let my people go. Let God's people go." And he has to do it, and he knows it. And he lets you begin the journey, and he lets you go higher and higher, because he has no authority over you anymore. When you have that sacred name, you are the one in authority. You have taken charge of your journey, and you have found the keys to get out of this prison. And you are unlocking the doors, layer by layer, level by level, realm by realm, to get out of this prison and get free once again and go back in the realms of spirit. That's the journey. And these are the keys. And it's for you to put them to use. And truly you will wake up one day and you will know that you never left the heart of God. And I've had people say, "You're crazy. How do you say that? And yet you're doing all this stuff about meditation and this pathway." Because until you wake up and know that to be true, you will live in separation. And you will live in the illusion of what is considered to be the truth of separation. But once you have really experienced what I'm talking about, you will know this is all just an illusion, all a great dream that you fell into. And once you wake up and know that you never left the heart of God, then, and only then, will you understand what I'm talking about in its fullness. So daily do the journey. Daily do the inner and the outer work. And I know, I can guarantee that you will get to the heart of God, that you will wake up and know the truth of who you really are, that you will know that you never left the heart of God. That I know. That Brian knows. That's what we're here to help make happen. But you also have to do your part. Okay. Hooray, hooray. So I guess we'll go ahead and move towards taking a break. And then we'll be back in about, what, 35 minutes or so, 45
It's
minutes?
about 20 after. You want to say 4 o'clock?
Okay.
Yeah, so about 40-minute break. So yeah, it's about 20 after 3 our time, so about 4 o'clock our time or so.
Yeah.
We'll be back. So
And I hope you'll be back too.
yeah. So on the break, we'll be putting the Hugh chanting on again for everybody, and we'll have a template you'll see on the screen as you're used to seeing, announcing if you want to do Q&A when we come back. The email address info@ilab.org to write your questions into. So enjoy your break, write in your questions on the break. Keep meditating if you want. Do whatever you need, and we'll see you in 40 minutes. Okay.
That's great.
All right. Well, we got a lot of questions already, so
All right.
here we go. Hello, Jim and Brian. This question is not a joke and seems irrelevant, maybe, but it's part of my daily life with the animals that live around me. I'm wondering if a roach will eventually reincarnate into a human like my cat. When I kill a roach, do I shorten its karma and make more karma for myself for killing an animal? I have zero feelings for roaches, by the way, and kill them easily. But I can't kill slugs as I feel for them, so I don't kill slugs. My son has rats inside his house, so I let him my rat electrocution box. I'd lent him my rat electrocution box to take care of the situation, but his landlord refused to use it as she decided to talk to the rats in spirit, instead letting them know that if they don't move out of their house, they will be killed. So rats had a choice to make, and it's amazing that the rats left my son's house with no need to use my electrocution box. I assume roaches could listen to me on a spiritual level as well. Any comments regarding the roach life, please, is appreciated. Thanks.
Good question.
You're better at those types of
Yeah.
questions.
Um,
I'm willing to take a stab at it, but pun
No.
intended.
there's different kingdoms in life movement, and the insect is one of the lower kingdoms. It contains less life force than, say, a rat or a dog or a cat. So in that, everything that is alive, everything, a plant, an animal, even rocks, there is consciousness. When they are moving, when they are growing, when they are becoming something, they have a life force that has consciousness to it. The insect is at the lower level of consciousness, and you're not really impacting it, or it's not impacting you karmically, in that the way it's often looked at in spirit is that you're moving them on to their next existence. Now I can't say it's assisting them, but it's just moving them on to their next existence. I know in Eastern philosophy they are really concerned about taking life of any form, and so they really struggle not to hurt insects or anything else. But I say I wouldn't focus on that. That's focusing back down into the world and getting caught up in the world once again. I would say focus on soul liberation, and your own personal growth, and pay attention there. And I think you'll get much more reward out of it. And the other thing is, there's a statement that has been said by many different spiritual teachers. It's not what you do with the body, but what you do in the body that matters. So it's really about the inner, the meditation that you do on the inner that matters to your soul liberation. And what the body does in the outer, such as maybe kill an insect or something, that's just part of this creation, and it's going to go on no matter what. They're going to die, something's going to kill them, or they're just going to die in their natural death. But that's just a part of the evolutionary cycle of the planet, and has nothing to do really with our soul liberation. So stay focused on your soul liberation, and do what you want, not to hurt animals, not to hurt insects, not to hurt birds, but at the same time, there's sometimes you just can't avoid it. And so I would just say not to focus on it, not to make it a big deal.
Part of what I often share in this area as well, like Jim was just saying, it's not what you do with the body, but what you do in it. What you're talking about is what we call the evolutionary process, and that's always in the cycles of reincarnation in this world. This path to sound and light is nothing to do with that. This pathway is literally about the soul's release from that cycle. So it's important to realize kill or be killed, eat or be eaten, that's all part of the evolutionary process. When the soul's experienced enough of that, it's eventually going to get to the point where now it's ready to be released from this wheel of reincarnation, no matter what state of evolution it's on. That's really the cycle. So that's just part of this world, so who knows, maybe in another life you used to be involved in the group consciousness as a roach, somebody stepped on you and killed you. So now that you're fully now migrated into the human form and you're killing a roach, it's payback time, right? Well, that's karma. It's called an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. I know people laugh at what I just said, but think of it that way. If you have guilt around killing a roach or something like that, or a rat or whatever, just remember it's how you view that. If you judge it, it's the judgment inside of you that works against you more than the actual physical action. I should say that's really all that works against you. So it's always the inner process of loving, accepting, forgiving any guilt, shame, fear, judgments inside of us that releases the soul from bondage. And that's where we're focused, is on soul liberation. So not about what you do. Because believe me, we got people in our own group that are Republican or Democrat, okay? And look at the fighting going on in the world right now, and the division. But if you get caught up in that, it's your judgment around that, in your righteousness, in your attachment to the politics in the world that hold you entrapped. But if you can move into a place of loving and accepting of no matter what anybody's political views are, no matter what anybody's choices or belief systems, but rather to see that whatever choices and beliefs we have are part of our own soul's individual learning. And it's important for us to look at our own learning and to love and accept ours as well as everybody else's. Because on this evolutionary scale of the Wheel of 84, we're all going to be killed or kill at some point in that. But if you stay focused on that and you run a fear, I don't care what level, if it's insects, plants, animals. I know a lot of people do vegan because they don't want to kill animals, but you're killing plants. I mean, it's just a level of, like Jim was saying, the lower evolutionary scale, from the mineral kingdom, plant kingdom, then I guess you could throw in the insects and other lower animal forms in the human kingdom. But we've been through that. The human form is where it's the highest of the evolutionary process here. And so we want our focus now to go beyond evolution and now go into what's called involution, or back in and up, like Jim's talk today of going in and up the inner mountain. Focus on that. And yeah, I know it's nice sometimes to have the information through the questions like that, but that's really not a concern. It's a distraction from the action of soul liberation. And again, when we give answers like this, it's not making any of that wrong or putting it down, because a lot of people interpret sometimes how we answer things almost like a put down or an insult to other things. That's not what it is. We just have a very specific focus about the soul liberation, and so we try the best we can to keep that focus. Whereas if we just keep answering questions like this one about evolution and reincarnation, then we've lost sight of what our focus is here in ILM about God first and God only. Mm-hmm. So even that, I hope the person who wrote this don't feel bad because I just said what I said now and you asked a question, whatever you did about all this in the world, that's fine. That's why we like answering these, because we all need to hear something around all of this. And that's why Jim and I take the time to answer that. It also gives us a chance to clarify our focus in Inner Light Ministries about what we mean about soul liberation, soul awakening, and what we're doing compared to the evolutionary process. So I hope that's clear.
That's good.
Because we're not liberation is about lifting out of this. All the others, over and over and over, reincarnation, no matter what level. That's where, when you get to this pathway, this is graduation. All the other, it's just repeating school over and over.
That's good.
So chakras are part of the physical creation. How does the crown chakra relate to the seat of the soul?
It doesn't. It doesn't.
Good question.
The crown chakra is a part of the physical life force that feeds life into the body. The crown chakra is feeding life force into the brain centers, and from there through the pituitary and the pineal into the rest of the body. The crown chakra also does open you up to awareness of the spiritual action of the physical consciousness, of the physical reality. It doesn't have anything to do with soul liberation. Soul liberation begins above the crown chakra at the seat of the soul when we begin to merge with our own soul. And then we begin the journey of soul liberation, and that's above the crown chakra and really above that element of the chakra system and the physical life force that it feeds.
It's kind of like what I was saying earlier in our talk about the seat of the soul. As a reference, it said that's just a physical reference. It's not what we're focused on. We're focused on the soul. It's just physically as a reference where we focus to tap into or to wake up to be aware of our soul. And the same thing here. All the chakras, the auric field, the meridians, all that deals with the body and physical consciousness. Yeah. Amazing stuff, great stuff if that's where your lessons are. And again, it has nothing to do with the actual action. And that's why this pathway is often confusing for people and why the world doesn't understand, because we're truly focused on the soul. In the soul's journey home to God, it's all dealing with the spiritual. All the stuff with the physical body, dealing with the chi, the prana, pranayama, the breathing, the yoga, all these different things, are dealing, and we're not saying, again, I want to say this and emphasize this, we're not putting it down. That is all part of this physicality, and it's part of our learning, and we're going to go through this while we're here. And part of learning, if you want to call it a spiritual action, is learning about taking responsibility for our thoughts, feelings, actions, reactions. So we need to be aware to some extent, and whatever that is for our lessons of learning, that if it takes us into like caring for the body, taking responsibility, just like we take responsibility for our emotional and mental states, in doing what we can to heal those areas as well. So I'm trying to say that because I know I did for so many years, and I know a lot of other people get confused when it comes to the meditation we're doing here about soul liberation, and what about on all the body and holistic health and energy healing and all these things. They're two different things. But we're not saying to ignore all the self-care and the energy healing and all. We're not saying to ignore that at all. We're saying you do what you need to do. You make your own choices for what you think is going to best serve you. But let that be part of your learning and growing and taking responsibility for your thoughts, feelings, actions, reactions, and don't confuse that with the action of meditation and soul liberation. They're two different things. But I will say this now, having said that.
Okay, because I have something too.
When you focus on soul liberation and going home to God, guess what? Well, the Holy Spirit's going to support you now through that action of going home to take responsibility. And that'll actually give you inner guidance and direction to go into those different areas and modalities to help you learn your lessons to fulfill your karmas. So if you listen to what I'm saying, if you focus on your soul going home to God, where most people go into meditation asking for guidance for better health, better happiness, better wealth, and all that, you distract yourself into the world. And then you often create states of confusion because you're trying to get it right. You're trying to control things here. Even though it's for a good cause, good purpose, it's still, when it gets the ego and mind in there, it still is our will rather than God's will. The more we can go to God and let it be God's will, then that inner guidance direction then can come from truly the highest good of God. And then those things in our inner knowing can filter down, and then we can move with that. So then, whatever we do physically, mentally, emotionally, it's going to serve our soul in fulfilling the lessons that it has for being here, and that'll assist it in getting liberated. And that's what we're focused on, is that liberation. But if you pay enough attention, you'll start to see how it all works together. What we're saying is make God first and God only, and let that filter down through the consciousness, realizing God's grace is what's going to really heal us ultimately. Well, that's what the word liberation is about. And when something is healed, it means we're liberated from the lessons that kept the soul attached.
That's good. Well, and if you remember in my talk just a minute ago, or half
an
hour
hour
ago or
ago.
whatever, it was about going inside. Go within and go up to the top of the mountain, and there you find the burning bush, which is the soul, this divine spark. Well, when you go into the bottom of consciousness, and then you work your way up. And you work through the chakras, but just naturally. There's no thought about, oh, I'm at this chakra, I'm at that chakra. You're at these lessons that you have to learn that the chakras hold for you. And so you go in and you begin to work yourself free through loving, accepting, and forgiving, and through keeping your focus on God first. And then everything else will come into alignment. And so you bring your whole beingness into alignment to get here. And then in that alignment, the soul begins to direct itself into your physical consciousness and bring the physical consciousness into alignment with the action of liberation. So there is that interplay with the chakra system, but we don't focus on it because it's not about the chakras. It's about soul, liberation, loving, and alignment with all of that. And I hope it makes sense.
Dear Jim and Brian, I have had 2 dreams in the last couple months that I'm hoping you will give me insight into what they mean. The first dream was quick, short. I built a ship. It had 2, maybe 3 masts on it. I put a monkey doll on it to be the captain, and I set it to sail on a cold, cold, dark blue lake. The lake had patches of frozen, crusty ice on the top of it in places. The ship sailed into one of these crusty, frozen patches and sank. I waded out into the lake, and it was very shallow, for the water came up to just below my knees. I was able to save my ship, but the monkey doll captain was lost beneath the water. The dream ends.
I would interpret that as that you were just moving through the mind. You've heard the phrase monkey mind. And to me, the cold blue waters was really about the mental realm. It's often seen as a blue color. And so the ship is about your soul's journey across the mind, but the monkey being the captain of the ship rather than you is seeing that you now have witnessed now the mind being the captain of the ship, and it went down. That's the good news, because once that ship goes down that the mind is running the show or the captain of, that to me says that you're now completing the karmas of that. That's why you went on, and why the waters were so shallow, because you, the soul, is all above that. You hear us in here talk about rising above the mind. That is a good example of rising above the mind. That it's shallow to you, so you have risen above the mind, and now you're just seeing the completion of that. And from there now, with the monkey mind and the mind being in the captain of the ship, now you're free of that for the opportunity for you, the soul, to be the captain of the ship. And that's this. You're at a point now, this is a big part of the spiritual journey. You've stepped into the beginning of what we had called spiritual freedom, where now you're starting to step free of the mind and rising above the mind. And then as you continue that, then that's when you'll now begin to move more into the soul liberation. And that, would you have anything
good.
else to add?
That's good.
The second dream was longer. I was with a group of people, and we were in a class where we were going to create. Brian was there, and another teacher was there, but it was not Jim. Both teachers were standing off to the side. Brian and the other teacher were the only ones in body forms. Everyone else were without bodies. Were they souls? We were all given a bundle of dried flowers, pods, and dried grasses, and a vase with which we were to create arrangements. The woman next to me did not get a bundle, so I shared mine with her. Then it was announced that the arrangements would be sold for money. The woman next to me could not find her arrangement, and she asked me if I saw hers anywhere. I stood up to get a better view and scanned the room and saw tables full vases with arrangements. And I remember thinking, they all look almost exactly the same, but I did not see hers. We were directed to go to another room for the teaching. As we moved to the next room, I heard a voice saying that I should talk and go first because I was going to have to leave early. I remember being surprised because I did not know I was going to have to leave early and wondered why I would have to leave early. In the next room, we settled down, and I was looking for paper to take notes on, and I did not have any. I asked several people if I could borrow a piece of paper, and everyone I asked said no. So I started looking through my things for any used paper that I could write on the back of, but I couldn't find anything. The dream ended. I send you my deep gratitude and love for all that you do constantly and lovingly for us all.
Do you want me to do
Yeah,
it? Or you
go
want-
ahead.
So to me, part of what that is, because what was the first part about creativity, right?
Yeah, there was a class where they were going to create. There were two teachers. One was you, and she doesn't know who the other person was.
So, well, regardless of that, because to me, any form of myself or Jim or other spiritual teachers is as a spiritual teacher, and part of the soul's learning is about learning about its creativity. So to me, that was just part of the process of awakening to your own creativity. And based upon what you're sharing, when I look at flowers, I look at those as part of the blossoming of consciousness through our creativity. And when I hear something about a lot of the flowers almost exactly alike, to me that is saying that every soul's creativity has the same essence that it creates from. But yet there will be its uniqueness in its creative expression, but even in the uniqueness, just like we all appear different from each other, we still are all of the same essence. We're still all of the essence of the flower. So to me, that's both acknowledging the sameness of that we all are in our creativity, that flower essence, but then the arrangement can be a little different, the colors can be a little different, the essence, all of that. So to me, that's saying you're beginning to recognize that more. And then with selling those, to me, that usually means there's something that you're learning about self-value, how you value your creativity, whether you really value it or whether you devalue it. So to me, this is about you learning about the value of your creativity and how you perceive that. So the more obviously you value your creativity, that can help. And this is what starts fulfilling the lessons of taking responsibility for our thoughts, feelings, actions, and reactions. Because the way we look at these things is a reflection of our consciousness. So when we start to value ourselves, value our creativity, value who we are and what we do, that's where we not only gain greater self-esteem, self-confidence, but that's where we begin to now fulfill ourselves spiritually in the lessons that we're here to learn. Anything more you'd add?
Well, then there's a part where you were sharing your flowers with the lady next to you because she didn't know where hers were. And that action is an action of giving and receiving. It's also an action of assisting other people, such as an action of creativity. And so to me, it means that you're not so self-centered. You're really sharing yourself with others. You're opening yourself and being more vulnerable and available. And so that's also a sign of a spiritual action of how you're living your life. So that's very good. That's very good.
There's the part about the paper.
Yeah, do you go ahead and say that part again?
So she was looking for paper to take notes on,
Yeah.
and everyone she asked said no, they wouldn't give her paper to write notes on. So she was looking for something she could write on the back of, but couldn't find anything.
Well, again, it's just what I was talking about. You're learning to share and give and be vulnerable and available, but it's showing that a lot of the people in the world are not. They're afraid to give anything. It's all mine. You can't have it. Greed, selfishness, whatever it might be. And so it's telling you just to let that be and just take care of yourself the best you could, and not get caught up in why they didn't want to give this to me, or rejection of any kind. So that's actually a good part of the experience, is you beginning to see yourself for who you are and see others for who they are, and learning just to accept it and move on and make your life work your way, not try to fix them or get what you want out of the world. Anything else? No?
2 dreams to interpret.
Pardon?
2 dreams to interpret.
Oh, okay.
The first one, my dream, I was participating in an exam outside on a grass lawn. We were all laying down on our stomachs. It was written essay. I knew that I will be able to finish and pass it as I did it in the past with a passing result. There were some distractions from the students around me. Some of them were cheating. Someone else would prompt them what to write through headphones. I was not going to cheat. I gave an extra pen to someone as a gift to use. It was fancy but dirty. I tried to clean it before I gave it to that person. So that's the end of the first dream.
You start.
So just read the first sentence or two so I get.
Yeah, I was participating in an exam outside on a grass lawn. They were laying on their stomachs, and it was a written essay. And this person knew that he would finish it and pass it with a passing result, but he was distracted by students around him that were cheating.
Okay.
But he wasn't cheating.
So it's saying that you're realizing that you need to do the work. You need to do the work for your life, for your reward, for your learning, and not cheat in a way like everybody else in the world is doing, thinking they're getting away with something, think nobody knows, that they don't know what they're talking about, or just whatever it might be. So to me, it means that you're becoming more self-aware, and in that self-aware, self-responsible. And so that's a very good action. And then sharing the pen with someone else, even though it's a fancy pen or whatever, but it's dirty, to me means that you're learning also again how to share and to be responsible in that sharing, such as wanting to clean it up so it's nice for them, and not being concerned whether it's the fancier pen or you should keep that because it's more expensive or whatever. You just were willing to share.
Can we turn the volume up just a little bit on this?
Yeah, that'd help.
I think it's part of what I realize it's not as loud as it was when we did the sound check yesterday. Go ahead and talk, we'll see.
Okay, I went up 3 clicks. Is
Oh,
that too much?
That's better.
No, that's good.
Want to go more?
No, that's fine.
Is that good?
Yeah.
We'll try it and we'll see.
Okay.
It sounds good though.
It's funny, that's why I was adjusting my
Yeah, I know.
because I was going,
I
gotta
realized,
hear
and then I
better.
saw you trying to talk up, so hopefully that'll answer both.
I'm gonna move back because it just did some feedback.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. I'm just gonna move back away from the speaker.
Okay.
Whoop.
All right. Did you want me to go the second dream, or were you gonna share?
Yeah, I just want to make sure you're set up and you got your drink there so it doesn't get knocked over. It's all right, just take a moment. Kelsey's we made her, she had to move now so we don't get the feedback in the microphone and speaker because we had to turn it up.
I think
Because
it's
Jim's
actually-
harder of hearing and Kelsey's voice is always on the softer side, so we're having to.
I didn't do a whole class yesterday. I had more energy in my voice when we did the sound check. Like
That's
super
true.
mellow now.
I think we all did. We're all
Yeah.
definitely on the more mellow side now.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that those sharings earlier, oh my God, I had to go lay down and just kind of go inside for a little bit.
Yeah, it was a powerful class.
Yeah, it was.
So, Tanya or Abe, just let me know how it sounds, if there's any weird feedback on
Yeah,
the
there
other
is some
side.
feedback.
Yeah, I can hear it too.
So if you want to turn it down just a little bit, that's fine.
Okay.
And then you can move forward again.
No, that's all right. The only thing is we're going to have you talk up more or move your microphone somehow closer to your mouth or something. I don't know.
All right. Is that better?
That's better.
Yeah.
That is
That's
better.
much better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't hear the feedback. Okay.
Cool.
Yay. Well, now that I just moved around, maybe I'll have more energy. All right. You ready for the second dream?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. During my meeting with Jim Gordon, I mentioned to him that I used the money gift from him to buy a pair of noise-canceling headphones to use for meditations and showed them to him.
Can you hang on? Kate, Ahmed there. Sorry, you guys. Okay, sorry. Can you go ahead?
No, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
After I finished meditation and opened my eyes, Jim was no longer in the room. The headphones were left laying on the chair with a blue noise cancellation indicator still on. I was wondering where he went, thinking that he might have preferred to meditate alone or the room was too small for him. Before having this, so the dream's over. So, P.S. Before having this dream, I did buy a pair of noise canceling headphones recently for myself, and it does have a blue noise canceling indicator. In loving.
Well, if anything, it's saying that Spirit wants you to take care of yourself. And this is one way to take care of yourself, by having the noise cancellation on the headset, and to be able to do meditation and to hear things clearly when you want to. That's a good sign that you're taking care of yourself. And so to me, it's just saying Spirit, Jim Gordon, came in and approved and said, yes, this is good. And you know, I'm glad you did this for yourself. Anything else?
It's good. Short and sweet. And that little blue light's kind of nice symbol too.
Yeah.
Okay, I have been trained in Reiki and cranial osteopathy. So I'm very attuned to energy and I feel that I have healing abilities in this area. Recently, when doing distance Reiki for a friend very ill with COVID, I had images come to me without asking or trying. I saw that his brother had a strong and negative energy connection to him and that he had redness in his lungs. I had not known this prior to the session, and indeed, he did have difficulty breathing. I basically just watched what was happening. In another distant Reiki session, I saw the past life of an individual again without trying or focusing on this. It just spontaneously occurred. When I meditate, I often feel an energy flow going up the right side of my body and especially on the right side of my face. This sensation does seem to be different, and with Reiki, I do feel this particular energy on the right side. How do I deal with this gift responsibly? I am unsure if I should continue, although it seems to be very helpful for healing and is very easy for me to do.
Well, it's just a choice on your part. That's what I would have to say. If you want to do it and it works for you and you know it's working for other people, then you might want to continue doing it. There's nothing wrong with doing what you're doing. It isn't a spiritual action. It's what you would call a pseudo-spiritual physical action. You're dealing with the physical energies, you're dealing with physical karma, you're dealing with physical illness, and that's just fine. So if you can go in and help to align, manipulate, move energy that way, and it's not hurting you, then that's good. If you find that the energy backs up on you or you get caught up on it, because a lot of people that do healing after a while start showing signs of illness themselves or of holding on to energies from another person, and then they start manifesting it for themselves. If that happens, then you just stop and you clear yourself through meditation regularly, through loving, accepting, and forgiving of all that energy, as well as doing your meditation and keeping your focus on God. So I would say anything that you get about illness, about past karma, about relationships. It's keep that to yourself and just let it go with the flow of spirit. The key here in that is don't take responsibility and then start trying to tell people what they're doing or what's happening or this is what they've got to work on, because you're going to enter into their flow of karma and then you've got a problem. You're going to get caught up in their karma. So realize that what you're witnessing is what's moving to be released. And if it's going up your right side, then it's going up in the grace, in the Holy Spirit to be released for them. So you're an instrument assisting them in releasing, but don't anchor it back in them again, giving them conscious thought or feeling about something, because then you enter into their karma. That's the one big thing I have warned others about as well, because I've seen the damage that can do. So do take care of yourself in that way, and I think you'll be fine. It's just don't get caught up in playing the game of, oh gosh, I got this, I know this, and hurt yourself by doing that to yourself.
Yeah, it just reminds me of, back before we started initiations, when you used to do a lot of the counselings and readings with people, when you would talk about their past lives, that's because Spirit was bringing forward the unlearned lessons so that they could fulfill the lessons.
Right.
But I remember even in the last decade, several people actually from counselings you did way back in the 90s or even 80s hung on to that information and kept bringing it forward, and they were stuck on that information, even though you're just sharing with them in the moment to help fulfill the lesson in the moment, which is what it was there to serve that purpose. And then it should have been let go. But so when people got that information, some people would just keep carrying that along all the time. And in a sense, I saw them holding themselves back because they were hanging on to that information.
Right.
So, and because if you guys notice, we don't do any of that anymore.
No. It could have been released through the action of Spirit, but they held on to it and made it something that they held on to for 20 years.
And that's why I wanted to share that, because if you guys notice, we don't do those types of appointments anymore like in the past, because we saw a lot of times that didn't, what people did with it is where it didn't serve them. I mean, the information was there to serve them in the moment, to heal and to let go, but a lot of people didn't use it the way it was meant to,
right.
And then it worked against them, or I should say they kind of held it against themselves. So that's why we try to share like we do now, to help just open the doors so that the grace, you can open up and allow the grace in and really understand more that movement of Spirit and how to participate with it, rather than getting caught up in the details of even the dreams like we're sharing about. Hopefully people hear that even when we do dream interpretation or inner experiences, that it helps bring understanding and clarity to keep walking the inner pathway, and not about, oh my God, that's cool, let me hang on to this and keep repeating it now. That's what we don't want you to do, but rather to take it into the moment, to learn from the experience, to grow and, let it go and move forward. So.
Okay.
Could you speak to the action of the blue light? This has mainly been an outward sign for me, and often a time that I'm asking for an outward confirmation of a thought or feeling. I know there's also an inner experience, but I've had more of the outward as of late in loving.
I mean, yeah, we can talk about the action of blue light, which we often have, and if this person's initiated or attended initiate, we have that in our initiate handbook, so I'd suggest to reread that. I'm not quite sure what you're referring to as far as the outer, unless that's kind of a reference to like, God, show me a sign, which that I understand, but eventually it's even good to let go of asking God to show us a sign on the outer, because eventually we want to bring our focus inside and let go of the outer. because the true action of the blue light is an interaction. That inner, if you want to have an outer sign, just the fact that you're here coming to ILM and participate in the events, to me, that's an outer sign. That the blue light has led you here for your own spiritual growth and awakening. The true interaction of the blue light is, and this is why we talk about the purple and the blue, and the way we've simplified it is the blue light is about the sacred name of God that we talked about like today, and about meditation for the soul's liberation. And the blue light works right along with the purple light in assisting the soul to move into that action, but the blue light more specifically is about soul awareness and soul awakening through loving, accepting, forgiving, and through taking responsibility for our thoughts, feelings, actions, and reactions. That's why we talk about the blue and the purple, the colors, and why we try to define the actions and the principles or techniques that we can, in a sense, apply to each one to work with those. Because we have, this is a good discussion, actually. We haven't talked about a lot, but in years past, when Jim and I, the first several years especially, started doing initiation here, we had many different people come in from different pathways of sound and light and have been initiated by other teachers. And we found a lot of people, like in one pathway, they were doing the meditation with the sacred name, but then a lot of those people were not learning about or taking responsibility for their thoughts, feelings, actions, and reactions, and learning how to work with loving, accepting, and forgiving. So we found a lot of the people doing that, even when they were very devoted and loving to the meditation practice and to their teacher, that served them very well, but there was this other element missing, and that's what the blue light brings, and that's why we do so much around LAF and talk about it here, because we found that when people really start to learn their lessons as well as with the meditation, it really fulfills the soul into the soul awakening and then the soul liberation, where we've even seen souls that have made it to the soul realm, but then they didn't get anchored and fully liberated because they didn't take enough responsibility for their thoughts, feelings, and actions and reactions. So they were tapping into the soul energy to bring here to truly fulfill and liberate themselves. But it's kind of like Jim sharing earlier where, hey, I made it to soul realm, but now I don't need to do the meditation now, and I'm going to go into the world and just do whatever. To me, I'm kind of saying the same thing, because the person didn't really work on that self part of taking self-responsibility as well as with the meditation. And we know other people who would do a lot of the personal growth, self-development, focus on a lot of the LAF, but then they weren't doing the meditation. So we really talk about both and working them together so that it really fulfills and liberates the soul fully and completely. So the blue light action is that action of taking responsibility for our thoughts, feelings, actions, and reactions, and working with the loving, accepting, and forgiving, and coming into soul awareness, which is the first step of spiritual freedom, and then into spiritual liberation with the purple light. You want to give any other details?
Well, to me, the blue light is awakening to the soul, and the purple light is the liberation of the soul. That's how I would put it. So, no, I think that's well put.
Well, we're going to have to just give a little bit more because Kelsey had to step away for a moment. So she's not here to read the next question.
Well, a moment of silence.
I'm here.
Okay.
Or a moment of silence works too. Okay, it's a doozy. Surrender, walls, eyes, sharing.
Say what?
Surrender, walls, I sharing.
Okay, that's it. When you surrender, the I that you are, the I of that end, can walk through any walls and you get past all the limitations. And you do that by surrendering so you don't let anything hold you back. So go ahead and fill in the details and then I'll say the same thing over, maybe in a little different way.
Dearest Jim, Brian, Kelsey, have you ever had an experience in your physical body where you feel super physically off balance? It's like your vision, instead of coming from your two eyes, is looking into the world from the third eye.
Have we ever had that?
Almost feels
Pretty regularly.
almost feels cross-eyed here in the physical, which throws off my balance. At the same time, in the physical world, all of your vision clears up and you don't wear your glasses for 5 days because you can see everything physically clearly, distance and close.
That's nice.
I feel like I'm watching my life in the physical, but not actually part of it.
Good. That's being in the world, but not of it.
Weird. I have a
It
whole...
feels weird, but that's the new norm that you want to live into.
I have a whole new life and I'm watching wonderful learning, completions, newness, blessings, appreciation, ease and grace. But
And a whole new life is wonderful because that's saying that you're being reborn spiritually and letting go of the physical focus. Sorry, I'm not sorry to interrupt, but these are really good points, and that's why I'm kind of interjecting wherever you're going. So don't lose track. Keep reading.
But I don't feel connected to it.
That's okay. In the transitory process, that when we're transitioning from those physical levels attachments and now putting our beingness and our expression, our awareness more in the spiritual, it's going to feel weird. It can literally throw us off balance. We can even have dizziness spells here and there. We're learning to live more from the spirit of who we are rather than the physical. And for that process, as it changes or transitions like that, there can be a period of time that we can really feel not right, not normal, because we're really just changing our reference from the physical to the spiritual. So I would just say be patient, just let it unfold. And at some point, you're going to start to realize now you're more anchored spiritually, and you'll find a new center and solidness of how to live life from that place. And then you'll be more neutral as you walk through the world, doing whatever you need to do in the world to take care of yourself and those around you. It's just learning, though, to live from that new reference point spiritually rather than the physical. So go ahead.
I know God is still there, but it feels like when I look up, I'm not seeing, experiencing God like I used to. Not feeling enthusiasm, joy like I used to. I know some of this flatness is actual peace and stillness at times. I know some of this flatness is actual peace and stillness at times that I've never experienced on a day-to-day basis before. Everything I have ever believed or defined is being shown to me to not be real. Mm-hmm. I don't feel much connection to anything. Don't want to do much. Spending 10 to 14 in sleep and meditation, but feel tired and dazed here while I'm awake. Although I'm walking through life in the physical with grace, ease, can you give me insight? Funny choice of words about sight.
Well, you're in transition, and it's an adjustment for sure, and it's learning what it is you're transitioning into, and you've described some of it very, very well. So allow yourself to go through this transition and adjust to it and learn what it is you're really becoming. You're becoming spiritually aware, you're becoming centered in the spirit, and you're becoming really choosing into living more the spirit than the world. and that is simple, that is peaceful, that is quiet, and for a lot of people it can seem boring because it doesn't really include a lot of worldly activity and worldly stuff. So let it be okay and just keep moving forward, do the meditation, and let the awakening continue. And you'll find that it'll be really the best place you could have ever wanted to be.
Yeah, and sometimes in that transition, like you're experiencing when you said you've lost enthusiasm or all, that's not uncommon because when the focus was in the world, we could get excited or enthusiastic about different things physically. But when we start to let go of that physicality and focus in spirit, well, then the enthusiasm that was attached to those things, well, it'll go away. And when you don't know where to redirect or put that energy specifically, you can go through a period of like depression or sadness or whatever you want to call it in that way because you've let go of where you used to put that energy. But that's why it's always keep meditating, because you've got to now lift that and now in a sense reattach, even though that's not really how it works, but reattach yourself now to spirit rather than the world. And as you do, you're going to find now a new flow coming in where you'll start to now, I guess I would say, be more inspired and have an enthusiasm with the spiritual inspiration rather than some type of event physically where you maybe mentally or emotionally get that type of energy going with that. So it's all part of the process. And tiredness and sleeping a lot, that can definitely be part of it too. Sometimes when we're moving through a lot of karmas and letting go, it can be tiring. I mean, it's a lot of energy. That's why today, even announcing we're going to look at finishing really closer to 6, because I'm starting to feel it now. It's a lot of energy, working spiritually with things. And when we're in the process of, trying to work through karmas and, help move that, it's even though it's invisible to the physical, there's still a lot of energy that moves and is involved in this process. So if you've been meditating a lot, then you give the opportunity to clear a lot of karma, and that literally can be tiring, just like what we go through and what we share here with you as well. So if your lifestyle allows you to have that time right now to be able to get some more rest, and especially though more time in meditation, then all the better. And you'll find it'll change. Nothing ever stays the same in this world. It's always temporary, and just whether that's a day or a week or months, it just is what it is. But that's all okay. And there's nothing wrong with making sure, checking things out to be practical with your health as well, to look at, the diet, the exercise, all that good stuff, just to make sure, you're handling your physiology or chemistry as well as supporting you in that way. But I'm glad you're considering the spiritual part of it, because so many times we've had people question and get health checkups and everything's fine, and then they wonder what's going on. Well, that's where nobody can really define when it is the spiritual movement, and it's really not mental, emotional, or physical. So, good question.
So this person has 4 more things. So just so you know, you're talking to the same person.
Okay.
If that matters, I don't know. It may all interlink, I don't know. There's like 5 different paragraphs.
Okay.
So the second one.
Is there a lot of other questions after this as well? We've only gone through an hour. We got a whole hour.
I just want to make sure we have room for everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's
Okay. Cool.
as long as no one else comes in, we should.
Yeah.
You should be able to get to the
Cool. We're good.
people. Okay. Thank you, Brian, for telling me to practice surrender instead of LAF, or at least that's what I heard.
Yeah, I didn't tell you. I just encourage and recommend it. I don't like telling people stuff. That's a joke, but at the same time, I mean it, because when somebody tells us something, we're all going to rebel and react to being told what to do. And I mean that. That's why I'm making a point of it right now. when we share here, our intention is to put the information out and then for each person to look at it and choose it for themselves if they want to. That way it's not being told what to do, but rather now a choice of, opportunity. And that's why you'll hear Jim and I often say, well, we encourage this, we support this, we're offering the information. We're not telling people what to do. And even though the person I know really didn't mean it that way,
they didn't.
I know they didn't. So the person who ever wrote that, don't take it that way. I'm just taking the opportunity right now to clarify some things in general for everybody with how we present here in ILM, so that hopefully that's understood, that this is just an opportunity. And the best way that it works is to choose into it freely, not do it because, well, Jim and Brian said, and on a personal level, I hate it when I hear that. I don't like it when people tell us, well, Jim and Brian said. I don't care what we said. What matters is, what did you choose? What's working for you? What are you choosing into that supports you and serves you towards your greater good, your liberation, and your spiritual awakening? So thank you for bearing with me to just share that.
So part of that, she says, I had all this anger and fear coming up. And I said, I surrender to you. Do with me what you wish. It
Good.
left, just dissolved. Thank you for another treat in my bag of tricks.
Awesome. That's how it works. I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you.
So number 3, experience where I'm in this elevator, maybe 2 or 3 story walls with some of my old students from a long time ago. As the elevator started going up the walls on the one side where me and one of the students were started going vertically, the guy and I were able to walk, levitate vertically, and not fall as it rolled and flipped over. The other boy was below us and couldn't do it. This started to happen with a second wall where it would rise vertically, then somehow flip. Not in a way it couldn't do here in the physical, actually. Then I was by myself and the wall flipped and I knew what to do. Then I was high at the top of this wall and there was like a shelf or ledge, and there were all 3 things on top of this little ledge. No one had been there in a really long time. There was all this junk, but mixed in between were gold pieces of jewelry. I was searching through things and collecting the gold earrings, necklaces, etc. Seemed present day in design, and some things that just didn't matter, so I left them. I was down on the ground and people were asking me about it. I just said it hadn't been cleaned in a really long time. There's more, but I can't read my writing. I'm having a hard time too.
Yeah, it's a little
It's a little confusing, yeah. I see some other person, a woman I knew in the past. That's the end of that one.
So, to me, well, one, the last part of it is, to me, choosing is really finding the spiritual gems throughout life. And to me, that's where, when we say, God first and God only, to me, that's really looking for the God in life itself, no matter where you are. And to me, the shelves and all the objects, I guess, if I'm understanding this correctly, because it was a little bit confusing in there, to me, that's like seeing all these different things of your life that you've experienced that are not on a shelf. A shelf is something to me that we look at each thing on a shelf, like even here looking, each thing we put on a shelf represents something to us. And to me, in an inner state of being, whether dream or out of body, the symbolism there, there's something there in that experience that we learn from. And to me, when I hear about like jewels or gems or gold, the gold to me is those little soul awakenings. I like to say there's many enlightenments to the road to illumination. To me, that the gold in there is seeing that essence, that spark of spirit in and through out all these things in life. And that says to me that you're really looking for that you're paying attention to really spirit and looking for spirit in your life in all the different things you've experienced in life. That's how I would interpret that or look at that. Again, that's my interpretation. If it speaks true to you, then take a look at that. The other thing with the elevator, I got to admit, I was a little bit confused what was really going on there in the explanation, but that might also be saying that some of your confusion. It might be part of the confusion around life and relationships. I would say that's probably really more the answer, is your confusion around life relationships. Students, close people, friends, family, whatever. And to me, the elevator going horizontal, vertical, flipping upside down this way or that way, to me, that's part of the chaos or confusion of this world that we all go through our different types of relationships. But ultimately, through those relationships, we learn and grow, and we end up going vertical above that. And some people will follow that vertical flow with us, just like maybe some of you in ILM are friends with each other and you're supporting each other in that vertical action of spiritually going up. But other relationships in the world that are maybe more karmic, they're going to pull you horizontal or sideways, or even toss you over and roll you over. And the walls and things, to me, walls and ceilings are often limitations. Floors too, for that matter, are limitations. Everything's defined in a box. So that when we can start to now move outside or through those walls, ceilings, or floors, tells me that you're getting beyond the limitations of the belief systems that karmic lessons hold in there. So that also says to me that whatever relationships you're going through, that these people symbolize, that you're learning the lessons there and now beginning to expand beyond the limitations those karmic lessons provide. And when you do, eventually you're going to get back up on that vertical elevator to go up and rise above it all, because you are learning the lessons. Anything you want to add?
No, that's very nice.
Do you want me to read the parts that you didn't address, or just keep moving on?
If you feel it's important, yeah.
Well, so the last one, she was by herself and it flipped and she was able to do it, and then it went really high up and there was a shelf or a ledge, and then that's where she saw all the gold pieces and the jewelry.
Yeah, that to me, I kind of answered that in a way, but to me that by herself is now getting free of all the other entanglements and the karmas and the relationships, so that once we do, we now come back to ourselves. And then her now going up, that's now the freedom, spiritually now rising above, being lifted above that. And that's where, from that point of view, being able to see that action of spirit in all of that. So all those things on the shelf can also represent like different levels of consciousness or the realms, but also then seeing the gold in there. To me, those, like I said earlier, those things on the shelves represent those life experiences that often come with what you described in those relationships in the elevator. So in a way, I kind of did answer it, but thank you. That helps maybe, hopefully, clarify it a little more.
Okay, number 4. Years ago, Jim would say not to share our inner experiences would lose energy, as I remember. But now we even share at regular meetings, Q&A, not just initiates. All gatherings feel like initiate meetings to me now with Stephen, Kelsey, and Jim and Brian. Can you explain shift?
No, one thing
Yeah.
I was saying is that, I do also explain you can share them with the teachers, but not with other people so much, because you just disperse the energy, but also you can get misinterpretation from other people and cause yourself a lot of confusion. It's really better to take the experience inside and get your own interpretation if you can. And we're here to help as well, to share and give interpretation if necessary.
Hopefully that was clear. So let me just kind of summarize again. We share about it in here, like Jim said, and it's always been, sharing with the teacher's okay, because the teacher's here to support you, and we come from a level of understanding from having our own experience. Unless somebody is fully woken up into the knowing of who they are and their oneness with God, you're not going to get that clarity or understanding of interpretation. As well, other people don't have the responsibility we do with a disciple. If you've been initiated with us, we have a very direct responsibility with you to assist you in your journey of awakening. And that's a big deal. Most other people, if you share with other people, they don't have that responsibility for one. And one, they're not going to understand. And two, who knows what their ego will do with it and run with it and try to act like a know-it-all and tell you what to do and what that means. If you notice, when we give interpretations, we're not trying to tell you what to do with your life. We're trying to help you give understanding to the spiritual journey to support you in your growth and awakening. That's the big difference. So if you share with other people, which we don't encourage, if you just heard Jim, pay attention to the responses you get. But so what we said hasn't changed. We still encourage you not to share with other people your direct inner experiences for a lot of those reasons. And just to keep it sacred to yourself so you let that energy build within you. Just like we ask you not to say out loud or share with other people the sacred name, that you get an initiation so that you really keep it sacred, that you let that serve your soul and your awakening and liberation. And by sharing that with others, it's not necessarily going to serve them in their action of liberation and awakening. They need to do that for themselves and find, that spiritual teacher that works for them, just as you have done for yourself. So hopefully that's clear. But I appreciate that question, because I know it can get confusing, because we have said that in the past, but then in our gatherings we talk about it a lot. But hopefully that's understood why we do that when it's directly here with us, so that we can help bring the clarity and understanding to support you, the disciple, on your journey.
Also, we do ask you to share in like an initiates meeting or in a meeting this way, because when you share and we give interpretation, oftentimes you're sharing your experience helps other people go, oh my God, I've had that. And then it offers them clarity as well. Mm-hmm. So we've been, maybe asking more for this, because we know that you're helping others through your sharing and how we interpret it and what they do with that. And we've gotten a lot of good feedback from all of that. So that's why we've opened it up a little bit more, but we still ask that you keep it private inside yourself and only between you and the teachers.
And I will say, when I reference things when we start initiation, like on other pathways where they wouldn't even share and ask questions about their experiences, even with the master, that's where we found a lot of people weren't learning and growing, and then that was actually holding them back. Mm-hmm. And that's why Jim and I encouraged and talk about the inner, because we found that as we do that, it actually encourages people to open up and have those experiences, but also approach it with greater understanding so that it supports and serves them. Because I remember a couple initiates from another pathway coming to our gatherings, and when they heard us sharing about all this, at first they were upset and reactive because they were told not to share and all that. But then as they heard a lot of our sharings, it helped them to have such greater clarity and understanding. And then all of a sudden they started having more inner experiences and waking up in greater ways themselves on their own spiritual journey. And even to this day, several of them never came to ILM. They just stayed with their own teacher, but it supported them in their practice. And so that's why we do it. We have found that it helps benefit the soul towards its liberation, rather than keeping it all quiet, because then there's not the understanding, confusion, And
And
yeah,
misinterpretation.
misinterpretation. We've just found a lot more benefits doing it the way we're doing than
Yeah.
and learning from the other ways that we ourselves have walked through.
All right, number 5. Wrote the other questions at lunch and thought I was done. Today's meditation and talks, surrender, focus, and loving devotion. More with looking and focus. Brian was guiding with the river of loving flowing. It came down on me, and it actually felt like I was drowning physically, yet seeing inwardly. Then I see myself in the river right at the edge in a long white robe. There is a being in a white robe just holding me there in the river, in their arms. So I can see in not really drowning. Just kept focusing on surrender. The white being holding me in their arms. We just rocketed up like they had a jetpack on, and I was just laying in their arms going up. Separate part. I just kept looking upward to find the whole, single point, the eye of the needle. It was feeling physically like I was cross-eyed and nauseated, and I couldn't find it where I had before. There was a white ceiling above me, very low, right above me. Brian started his talk about loving devotion. I see myself kneeling, and then the huge white column surrounds me, and I'm just pulled up. Later, while Jim was talking, I saw the vortex going down, being dark, and the little hole in the middle, and the vortex going up into the white light of spirit. Thank you for helping me to refocus and remember. She wins who endures to the end. Never ever give up while on physical. Loving beyond my wildest dreams to you all, your devoted initiate.
Well, if anything, I think you're describing very well the inner pathway for yourself and where you're at and where you're going. And it's just showing you that there's spiritual support all along the way. And it's ever focusing on taking you higher and higher and higher. So the thing is not to try to figure all these things out per se, but just enjoy the experience and go higher and just relax into it. When we get caught up in the mind trying to figure all the pieces and parts out and who's what and why, it can kind of destroy the liberation and the freedom energy that's in there. So rather than give a lot of detail and say this and that and this is what this is and this is what that is, to me it's really saying you're now really moving in the flow and just continue enjoying that flow and be in that flow and be aware of this movement. But I don't know if I'd try to figure it all out.
I was just going to say, enough said.
Yeah,
Literally, you said it. That's awesome.
that's great experience,
Yeah.
great awarenesses.
Self-awareness in soul, question mark. Hi, Jim, Brian, and Kelsey. It is wonderful to be with you today. And Jim, when you were talking, it was as if you were talking directly to me. As so often happens, you seem to know exactly where I am on my journey. Thank you. So I'm about to share 2 things. First, a flood of questions that came with a recent meditation, and second, the response that came the next day. My meditations the last several months have been so rich with teachings and knowing. Sometimes I rise into meditation, a question will come to mind, and answers may come during the meditation or during my dreams the following night. But I wanted to share one particular recent experience. As I was going into meditation, a question came to mind that immediately opened a Pandora's box. It occurred to me that I have a distant sense of the presence of the Holy Spirit and of Jesus. They are pretty much tangible to me. sorry, she has a distinct sense of the presence of the Holy Spirit and of Jesus. They are pretty much tangible to me. I feel them. But my soul is less distinct. I questioned as I was going into meditation, where is my soul? I don't seem to have a unique sense of identity for my soul. If I am spirit or energy and I merge back into God's spirit, do I lose all sense of my identity? For example, it is like dropping a drop of ink into a bowl of water. Sorry, it's a question. Is it like dropping a drop of ink into a bowl of water? Does my spirit, like the drop of ink, just dissipate into the flow of spirit and lost its unique identity? And why does that bother me? Why do I not want to lose my sense of identity? But is this what separates us in this place from God? Our desire to be distinct and unique? If my spirit just dissipates back into the whole of spirit, how can I know myself if I'm just another cup of water in the ocean? Can I still talk with God and ask questions? And the answers seem to have been suggested in the next morning's meditation. I was lifted so high, I lost all sense of physical world. I was consumed and wrapped in loving. I felt God's love wrap around me like arms holding me, and my love wrap around God too. The flow of loving between us was intense and wondrous, and I was vibrantly self-aware. So I don't know how it works, but I know it does work. Even though we merge back into spirit and share all-knowing, we are still amazingly self-aware. As I came out of meditation, I wrote, so that's what it's like to die, to let go, to rest, to be wrapped in God's loving arms, and to go home. How wonderful. So Jim, can you explain this a little better to us?
I think you just explained it. I think the question was a question, and the answer is the answer to the question. It's just, there's no other words you can put on it. You do merge into God, you do go into the oneness, but yet you are aware of self, but it's not a self. It's just you are aware of your part in God and God in you. And I mean, if you take the word self off of it, it helps ease the process. Because there is no self per se. There is just who am I in God and who's God in me, and the oneness that's there in all that. So I don't know, can you describe it any better?
I don't know about that. I know I've read so many different things, and people get all scared of that because the fear that comes up, I have found it's just the ego afraid of dying, basically. But that's part of the fears we have to shed or let go of in order for the soul to be liberated in all that. That's why I always encourage surrender, because eventually you're going to keep surrendering, and in that you're going to see all these other things die off or drop away, and yet there you still are. And it's that yet that you still are, then in its freedom and goes up more into spirit, you're going to find that that conscious awareness that you have, and this is true for all of us, the conscious awareness you have never changes, never stops. That conscious awareness is that beingness of who you are, not just as an individual, but as that part of God. That I like to say, when I went into the greater oneness, it never changed my sense of self. It just expanded into the greater beingness of God. So in this world, the sense of self is separate. My experience when I went into the soul realm and above the sense of self was one with. But there was always a knowing of self. Here, maybe not a knowing of self, but a sense of self. There, a knowing of self. And the oneness of self with God, the greatest self. It's just words again, but that's what I found to be my experience in all of that. And in that, there's literally all the fears just get shredded away, just dissolved. The fears just drop away, but again, that's where we've got to be willing to let go of any fear of losing self-identity, because in truth, there's no way you can lose that awareness of self. That's impossible to lose that sense of self. And I know I had to go through that process you're sharing too, and I know there's a lot of misinformation out there about that, but that's just what it is.
Also, there was a part in somewhere in there where they said that they were somewhere, but they couldn't find the soul, their soul. You have to stop and think, when you get into the higher, you are the soul. There's no out there soul to connect to. You are the soul.
Yeah, she was saying she has a distinct sense of the presence of the Holy Spirit and of Jesus, but not of the soul.
But you just have to realize you're the soul. With the Holy Spirit and Jesus there, you're the soul that's present in all that.
That's the sense of self.
Yeah, that is the
You're
sense of
consciously aware.
self. Yeah.
That conscious awareness is what that is that you're asking the question about.
Yeah.
And when you say you're, aware of Jesus or the Holy Spirit, well, see, that's the inner knowing that comes with that just conscious awareness of self, that we can have a knowing of these different vibrations or frequencies of these different beings or energies within that presence of spirit.
Much loving to all.
Amen.
Okay. One just says, P.S. I love you. All right. Dear Loving It All, dear Jim, Brian, and Kelsey, I'm grateful you are here on this journey with me, on the inner as well as on the outer, along with the European community, who I receive a great deal of love and support and honest communication from. It is a blessing indeed to be part of a spiritual family that has a level of understanding and acceptance of who I am without attempting to fix or mend me, and can stand in neutrality with whatever I am experiencing. Jim just mentioned those of us who do not have many inner experiences. I meditate and do my 2 to 4 hours daily, even more on most days, as I listen to talks and to Anahu chants whilst I am working. I do see the purple light, I know the loving, and I see the white light, but I have little or no awarenesses of going through the 10th door. Apart from the light and the sound current, I have no idea of where I am or what realm I am working through. There are some things in my dreams, but often I do not hold the experience and cannot write it down. I often wonder if I'm doing it right. How do I know that I am moving in the right direction? Is it simply okay to know that I'm doing the work and that all is well in my spiritual life when I continue to do this and hold God as my starting point? I am a devoted and disciplined disciple, and I'm seeing in my personal life a great deal of peace, and even when there are some disturbances around caretaking, I am dealing with things in new ways where I completely honor myself no matter how others respond. This has been a great lesson for me. And having let go of some caretaking, another round has turned up for me to stay neutral and loving with and taking care of myself first. What I heard Jim say is that I may not know where I am, but as long as I'm doing the work, this is not important. I suppose I am just hoping that I'm not kidding myself in any way, and would hope that you can nudge me if you feel I am not being honest with myself. In loving service.
One thing, if your life is more quiet, more peaceful, and you feel as though there's movement in the outer as well as in the inner, you're doing it right. You're doing it fine. Sometimes we don't have great experience, but we can measure things by just how we're handling life, how we're moving in the world, how we move within ourselves, and our actions that we're taking rather than doing reactions. So I would say you're right on target, and I would say that you're just moving forward very well, and just keep doing the work as you've been doing.
Definitely. And the acknowledgement you gave you said, I see the purple light, I know the loving. That's what matters. That was pretty much my sharing today. You do the meditation, that's going to wake up. You're going to know that. And at some point it becomes solid, and you know that, and there's no changing that. That's what matters the most. And you've got that. That's very clear. And so just keep being with what you have, and you literally don't worry about the rest. So you know the loving, you see the purple light, that's really all that matters, because that's really the true loving essence of God, most directly. And truly the greater fullness of God is formless. It's a beingness. And that's why I like it when people are aware of the loving or just the purple light, because that's really more the beingness of God in a formless state. And even though it is like a river of loving as it comes into this creation, that river is still just the formless beingness of God's loving, rather than some type of personage or personality or something else as an experience. It's just the loving beingness of God. And that's ultimately where we're going back into, in the fullest sense, where there is no experience. We literally eventually go beyond experience itself. Because all of this, out of the formlessness came the form. The form is where we get distracted and caught up in the details. When we can let go of all the forms, we go back into the formless. And it's that formless state where the drop merges into the ocean. And that's really what we're doing here, is going back into that formless state, into the oneness and the loving beingness. So to me, better to focus on that, and that way you transcend all the forms and all the details, so you don't get distracted or caught up in it.
Question for Brian and Jim. Dear beloveds, when I was listening to the Golden Pool meditation yesterday and was leaving the pool, I had a very deep and beautiful experience. It felt like it was another initiation and very sacred for me. But then when the meditation went into the garden area, I had a choice about the garden gate. It appeared straight away on my left, but I thought the left is to be avoided as it would lead to the negative earth, so I created a gate on the right. I went to the gate and it was all black beyond it. When I entered in, I then had a deeply moving but very upsetting experience. It felt like I was working through some very difficult lessons. I was focusing on the forgiveness with the experience, but it still pulled me back into what felt like drama and lessons. My question is, when I've had other initiations, I have felt very clear and liberated and refreshed and inspired, but this time I felt like it didn't didn't get to fly or anchor it. I was pulled back down into the world straight away when I went into the garden area. What can you help me understand about my experiences? Many thanks and blessings.
The one thing I would say is that when we're on the higher, the left and the right is not what it is in the world. And to me, if a gate appeared on the left, I would have just gone with that walk into the gate on the left side and really allowed myself to have the experience that was revealing itself to me. And I think it was showing you that with the confusion, which I'm sorry that was there, that you created the gate on the right, and if it was black, I wouldn't have even gone through that, because I would know then that that wasn't really for me. It was of the world and not for me to go into. But by going into it, you did see the confusion and the chaos of all of that. And that's fine, you learned something there. But if something does appear on the left, it's not necessarily negative, evil, but it's the next opportunity for your growth, and that's what I would have taken.
Yeah, the other thing in that, I've always found that when I just surrender to Spirit, regardless of left or right, when I just surrender, then I found that God always carries me through whatever I need to experience. And I've had to go through a lot of what we'd call negative experiences. And we all do, because that's where a lot of our karmas are, and that's where our fears are. And so when I see black, to me, there's fear in there. And we have to walk through those fears. That's important to understand, that we need to surrender to even that process and not avoid the fears, but literally to allow the Holy Spirit to carry us through the fear. And what I've always found to be the case, that when I'm drawn into those dark areas, those fearful areas, that I always find myself at first resisting, reacting to it, not wanting to go into it. Of course, that's how any of us would do it. But when I find that divine presence is carrying me into that, whether I want to or not, then I found that's all that matters, is to totally surrender to the Holy Spirit, to surrender the divine presence and let it carry us in and through anything and everything. And the Holy Spirit will take us through a lot of dark areas, because those are areas that we need to go into and clear so that we get free of those lessons. And all we have to do is surrender, let go of our resistance, and allow literally that grace of God to move us in them and through them. And when you can go in and through and just fully surrender and open up, literally the Holy Spirit now will just take you right on through it. It's in our resistance and reaction to that causes us to hold back from our growth, from our progression. It's an avoidance technique, and rightfully so, of course, because it's scary. So we'll avoid those things we don't want to go into. But if you fully surrender and the Holy Spirit is bringing you into it, well, there's a reason. There's a reason for that. That's why, to me, even if you had gone through the left gate, you probably would have walked into the same place. In this case, I don't think it would have mattered if you went to the left or right gate. More than likely that was taking you into some level of the etheric realm that just is dark, and we have to go in and through all that and confront all those things that are fearful, whether they have shape and form and we can see them, or whether it's just a feeling of fear, there's no shape or form. Doesn't matter. It's still fear. And eventually we have to let go of all of our fears. That, to me, is the most important thing here, not the left or the right. Just let it go of all the fears. But how do you let go of the fears? You surrender to God. And when you're not sure of God, surrender to the fear. Because guess what? God is in the fear as well. And God will get you through the fear. But you're not going to know that until you actually do it. Every time I've surrendered, this is what really throws people, and why most people won't do what I'm really saying right now. I have literally surrendered to the fear, the negativity, and the evil itself. That scares people. The reason I've done that, well, one, I didn't have any other choice. Two, is because I needed to do that to see that is all an illusion and that God is in it and through it all, and God will bring me through it all and liberate me from it. And eventually, when you allow yourself to do that as well, you'll realize there's nothing to fear and it really is all an illusion, because as soon as you do that, it all dissolves. I mean, it literally dissolves and it disappears. That's how you'll realize all these fears were just illusions to begin with.
Yeah, that's right.
That's really the greater truth, but you're not going to do that until you can surrender to Lucifer and all of his darkness. Just surrender. Say, okay, go ahead, do with me what you're going to do with me. As soon as you even surrender to Lucifer, God will pick you right on up and move you right on past all of Lucifer's creation. So just remember, God created Lucifer too and created all this realm for Lucifer to play in. Think about that one too. And then you'll realize why we share what we share, that there truly is nothing to fear.
That's right.
I wanted to thank Jim for emphasizing giving everything up to God, or at least I'm hearing it now. I am in the process of moving, and there are things that seem overwhelming. Last week, before going to bed, I did say sincerely, okay, God, this is a lot. I give it up to you. I slept for 9.5 hours and had not slept that well for days. This really does work. Thank you both for giving us practical spiritual tools to help us through this physical life.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, you're welcome. I love it, hearing that it actually works.
Yeah.
It actually works. How about that? It works when we work it. That's really the truth.
Yeah.
So that was the last email.
Oh, very good.
Really?
Well, that's good.
Wow.
Doesn't mean more won't come in since I said that.
I know, especially that we have a good 15 minutes or so left. I'm like, wow.
Well, I would say maybe we could just bring it to a close, and I'm very grateful for today. This was a wonderful day.
I am so tired. I mean, it's just been one of those really deep, sacred days where I know that tiredness is really just spirit keeps drawing me inside.
Me
where
too.
I just want to kind of, let the body rest and go in with all that. That's pretty nice. So I will finish then and wrap this up with just a little comment. And part of why I talked about death and dying and liberation today, because it wasn't just about physical death. And yes, there are obviously, we're all going to, and there have been lately some people that have left the body physically. But it's important to understand as well that a lot of the dying process is where our karmas die off first. And truthfully, the body itself is a karma. Literally, the body is, the physical embodiment is the karma. The physical body itself is the vehicle by which we can move through our physical karmas, but ultimately the body itself is a physical karma. That's why eventually we even have to let go of the body so that we can let go of that last bit of the physical karma. So the dying process up to death, so death and dying, that dying up to the death of the body, that dying is about the karmas dying off. And so when all these things we hear about, even all these experiences, good and bad, that these are all karmas. All the karmas are lessons that we, the soul, are moving through physically, imaginationally, emotionally, mentally, etherically, or unconsciously. All of that is karma. Those are all lessons that we, the soul, are moving through to have experience and learn from those experiences. So when the physical body dies, it's because we have learned and fulfilled those experiences for that lifetime and that package. So the dying process is that we have these lessons to learn before the body dies. And when we do, by doing this meditation, practicing the LAF, taking responsibility for our thoughts, feelings, actions, reactions, we are going to have many, many experiences of even feeling like we are dying or somebody around us is dying, that something is dying. Because that is our inner awareness, knowing that these karmas are dying off. And that is a good thing. Because with death is a rebirth. What is that? When there's the dying of the karma, there's the rebirth of the soul. And that's what we're doing on this pathway of sound and light, is liberating the soul, which means a rebirth, because when the soul is caught up in the karmas, that's where it's asleep. When the karma dies, the soul wakes up, or being born again. And that's what we're doing when we talk about clearing karma, soul awakening, soul liberation. But we have many karmas that have suppressed us, that has held us down, that has created a sense of separation or darkness, that we don't know the truth of who we are. We're not spiritually aware and awake. So the dying is a good thing. The funny thing is, we go into fear about death. We're afraid of things dying. We're afraid of change. Well, what is change? One thing is dying, so we can now go into something new, or something is being born. There's always a rebirth to every death. It's a transition, it's a movement. Like even this last sharing, somebody talked about moving. So what's happening is that their old place and what came with the old place is dying off, is that experience of living there and all that went with that. And that's why it's hard for people, that fear of death stops us from moving forward. But we've got to be willing to allow the dying, to accept the process, to accept the mourning, even the sadness, the letting go, in order to free ourselves, to liberate ourselves from that, so we can now move forward to what's new, to the next experience. Whether that's literally a new place to live, or a new job, or a new relationship, or just a new experience of whatever, or literally leaving the physical body at its point of death, and now literally us, the soul, moving into now a new experience beyond the physical. So that death of the body and all those karmas dying off leading up to that is this action of soul liberation that's taking place here. So if you don't want that to happen, then don't meditate, don't practice LAF, don't take responsibility for your thoughts, feelings, actions, and reactions. Keep your eyes closed, blame everybody for everything else, and ultimately blame God for creating it all, and then you'll be good. But in a way, that's what a lot of us are doing when we're afraid of the dying process, when we go into fear, because fear is the ultimate darkness that shrouds the light. So this whole thing of let go and let God is so important. So important. It's funny, I find myself often at a loss of words, because I know the words never fully describe how it really works. But I know I hear these things like people say, bring the light into the darkness. We are the light that's already in the darkness. Why bring the light in the darkness? How about bring the light out of the darkness? Well, that's what we're doing here in ILM. We're liberating the soul from the darkness. We're not trying to bring the soul into the darkness or bring the light into the darkness. We're already here. We all are trying to get out of the darkness, but because of people not understanding that, the ego, that's always got to be all powerful and so special, thinks it's going to serve the world and bring the light to the darkness and awaken humanity and transform the earth and the universe. That's literally the craziness of the ego, but yet it does it and truly believes it. And that is the biggest fallacy that keeps the soul in bondage. That's what the ego wants. That's what the ego will make us believe. And until we can truly give that up and surrender that, we're going to stay stuck and imprisoned by it. We're not here to bring the light to the world. We already are the light in the world. We are here to fulfill and complete our lessons in the darkness so that we, the light, can now return back into the truth of who we are and the oneness of God. And believe it or not, even the darkness is light itself. How would we know what darkness is if there's not the light of awareness? That's why I'm saying I find myself short of the words, because people don't even understand that the darkness is actually light. God is all light, so even darkness and blackness is light. How can we define darkness and blackness if we can't see it, if we can't know it? Think about these things. Don't take things at face value anymore. The dark night of the soul. That's bullshit. There's only light. Only light. Darkness is an illusion. Fear is an illusion. It's all light. Look up the definition of Lucifer. The Lord of light. So that means it's a dark light, but it's still a light. Lucifer was at the right hand of God. God created it. So stop judging and fearing and making Lucifer, the darkness, so evil and negative. It's all an illusion. It's all a fallacy. Just because we feel fear, because we get disturbed or upset, we give that so much attention and focus and think it's real. And so we just choose, by giving into that, to believe the falseness. And so we get to experience the falseness. That's our experience. Well, it's my experience, so it must be real, it must be true. There's light and dark. No, there's not. There's only light. It's just a different experience of that light. That's all it is. It's all we're learning here. We are learning by being here in this aspect of God called time and space or reflection. This is the light of God that you could call it the light of darkness. It is still light. It's just the way we experience that light in this creation. So when we talk about liberation, and Jim's always sharing, one day you'll wake up and realize you never left the heart of God. Because at some point, we're all going to realize that. But we've got to allow ourselves that process and do the process that it takes for that to happen.
Very good. That's good. Well, I think that's a good closure for the day.
And we're still 5 minutes early.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for your question and thank you
For your questions and your answers. Well, some of them did have the answers.
That's true. They actually did. And we really look forward to next month when we come back and share again. Anything from
Amen.
you?
Amen.
Okay.
Seriously. It's good to be back.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And we'll see you all on the other side, on the dark side and the light side, the light of the dark side, and everything in between.
Yeah. Well, God bless and have a good one the rest of the day and the months ahead.
All right. We love you all. Take care. Oh, wait, what did I used to say? Stay safe and stay spiritual. That's right.
Yeah.
We're still with those times. I know. they've been continuing. All right. Till next time, you guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for coming. Love ya.